go and get you guys coming in. Got something slightly different for you tonight, got some options for you. As usual, let's start with a couple of things. Say hello in the chat. It'd be great to know where you're from in the world. So my standard welcome is tell us where you're from and tell me that you can hear me clearly. Should all be good, but we want to double check the tech. Hey, that rhymes. Double check the tech. That's cool. Anyway, excited for this. I've got a new LED light sitting over there. It's quite bright. But that's okay. I'll survive. So as soon as I see the first message in the chat, that gives me some idea of the stream delay. Awesome. Loud and clear from Texas, US. Had a suggestion from one of the community members that we turn some of these streams into podcasts so you guys can listen while you're driving down the road. That would be pretty cool. Hey, Fort Wayne from Perceptual Lucidity Games, thanks for saying that you're here. So guys, the suggestion for tonight, and I'm going to leave a poll on the screen that can allow you to change your mind. My suggestion for tonight is that we play you about an hour and 20 minutes of the conversation that Rick and Sam and I had today about RPG questing and inventory. I think that'll be more interesting than me diving in on my own. So what I'm going to do is just give you some idea what that's all about, tell you what the plan is, and if you're happy with it, we'll crack on with it. And if you want to stop it and dive back to me live, well, there's an option. Let me give you just a brush of the video. So it's basically a Zoom call. My wife's just popping in with some food, I think, for me. Thank you very much, honey. This is my beautiful wife. This is Twitch. There she goes again. So it's basically a Zoom call between Rick, Sam and I, and then we're talking about inventory questing dialogue. We get into the engine a little bit. We start to mock up what we might be doing with the interface and the different components that we may have, how we may name things, bit of banter, some ugly but still useful diagrams, some considerations of third-party software, a crazy idea of mine, which you can discover at about 56 minutes in. So this is what I propose that I just roll for you, and then that I focus 100% over there on my laptop on the chat, basically. So that's what I suggest that I do. I would also leave a poll up on the screen to say, hey, if at any point the majority of people don't want to watch a pre-recorded video and rather talk to me live, that is fine as well. But there's a lot of value in this video. So that's one piece of feedback I would like. If you could just tell me in the chat now, are you happy for me to give that a go and to start rolling that and see how that goes? And the second piece of feedback I'd like in the chat is whether you would like it like this on your stream with me live here, but slightly confusing me pre-recorded from earlier today there, and the chat up inside the video, or would you prefer I just full screen the video like this and then I just go over and focus on typing in the chat and being very present in the text chat. So give me that feedback, that'd be awesome, and then we can crack on with this evening's event, if that's what you call it. I think it is. That's pretty cool. So give me that feedback. Keep telling me where you're from. Pocket CS Nerd, love to know where you're from in the world. Always good to know who we're speaking to, where you guys are from, etc. I'd love to see that video with your interaction here, Shablo. So just clarify, Shablo, is that leave my video in the corner here? You'll basically see me doing this most of the time, though, typing on my laptop, because if I'm going to leave that video rolling, I'm going to be focused on the chat very much. Or I could be here focusing on the chat. But of course, not going to be able to talk over it. If I play that video, it's going to be, let's give you a quick clip from the middle of it. It's going to be this sort of thing.
The right events that come.
Oh, by the way, can you hear that?
And you'll just put like game objects and different things, like a walked over the bridge detector. Well, initially we just made.
Can you guys hear that video? Just a tech check. Tech check again. It's another tech check. Can you hear that? It's audible. Should be. It should just be absolutely fine. All right then. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to roll it full screen. You don't need me live as I am, especially not as I stuff this beautiful bowl of. Look at that. Wives, you've got to love them. What is this? Yogurt, granola, raspberries, a whole lot of stuff. So that's going to get down the pipe. You won't have to listen to it going down the pipe. I will mute my microphone in just a second. Play the video. I'll see you in the chat. I'll leave a poll up. If at any moment you want to stop the video, go back to live, well, just vote it up on the poll and we'll go for it. So awesome. See you soon, guys. Enjoy this, and I will see you after it for a brief Q&A. So Rick Davidson, the game career coach turned Unity instructor and developer, Sam Patuzzi, Unreal developer, awesome programmer, and my lowly self had a conversation this morning about the Unity RPG project, specifically about dialogue, as in characters talking to each other, and questing. Turned out to be about a 90-minute conversation, hour and a half, and we thought at the end of it, actually this would be valuable for our students to hear the process by which we got to some of the decisions we made about how we're going to tackle this thing. So we're sharing it with you. Now the audio quality is not 100% because it's using an internal microphone on the computer, but we felt there's enough value in there that it's definitely worth you watching. Lots of nuggets, lots of thought process, lots of deep why behind the scenes, as in why are we doing things. So I hope you enjoy it, hope you find it useful, and we'll see you soon.
And that's a good time for me, your 10 a.m. to be available.
Yeah, that would probably work then.
So let's do 9.
Okay, so we'll put that in starting. Well, we could do a quick session now to get going.
Now, yeah, to get started.
And then Unity, well, tomorrow morning. Oh, yeah, 9's clear.
It feels like good.
Because yeah, this meta talk is definitely not creating any value. It's good to help point us in the right direction. But RPG pair coding, I'll call it. Rather than necessarily code review. Just
it feels like, Rick, it would be good to kind of sit down and have a bit of a spec.
Well, we know we did that the other day, really, in a way.
No, conclusion of quests and dialogue. That's not a spec. That's a topic. I think what we need to do is find a game that matches what we want, and for me to say to you guys, make this, and then you can just have that game as a reference, and you can see exactly how it works. And there's no, should we do 1 of these or 2 of these or 7 of these? The innovation for us is not coming in reinventing how the inventory system works. The innovation is from our students' point of view, it's just getting it done, like showing them how to do it.
I guess what I mean is, so as part of it is going to be what's possible on the player side, but also because as the game programmers have to do both the side that faces the player, but also the side that faces the game designer. So it'd be useful to know, what kind of parameters do you need to tweak? So I need to create so many swords, and they need to have special, abilities. And
yeah, we've done the weapon bit.
I need like health pickups. I need,
Well, for now, it's just one single focus. It's just dialogue. It's just I can walk up to characters and we can start a dialogue. And that dialogue.
What does that mean? So how does a dialogue tree look to a designer? What does
exactly.
Well, it's also how's it presented on the screen and stuff. Yeah.
Not worried about the state of the quest yet. I don't think. I think that.
I think if we think about that would be useful because we can leave space in the architecture.
Yeah, maybe.
It'd be better to think ahead a little bit.
Yeah, but how much? Yeah. Just getting dialogue. Do you want branching dialogue?
Well, it's just like we can choose a minimal feature set, right, and say branching dialogue or not branching dialogue, or we will do quests or we won't do quests. And
we are going to be doing quests.
If we're doing quests, then why architect for not having quests and then re-architect for having quests?
Yeah.
If you're doing it from the get-go, it's never going to need.
So what's what's the minimal thing, Sam? Is it Rick? I walk up to a guy and he's a quest giver, and we start a conversation, and in that conversation really he gives me a quest.
To have like a like literally some stories.
Well, just the first one. Just being able to do the first one would give us a lot of.
Well, I think if I can give you guys screenshots from a game that has this, you'll look at it and you go, okay, I get it. That makes sense. I think you walk up to someone, they've got the thing above their head, you click on them, that brings up the dialogue down the bottom third of the screen. Doesn't cover the whole screen, but down the bottom, it's them talking away. Ideally, we have 2 options for the player to say this or to say that.
Are you generally talking about binary dialogue tree or not binary? I mean, is it 2 options for the player, or can we have 3 or 4?
I think architecturally, it'd be good to have no constraints on that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a UI constraint, not a game design or a programming constraint. So I think we don't want to, if we're keeping it scope simple, we get good bang for buck just having 2 options.
We use that UI constraint though, because if it makes the difference between whether these things are lists or arrays and that type of thing. If we know we're only going to have 4 options ever, because that's what the UI limits, we don't really need to be architecting it to have more than that.
Well, that's not.
It's not too much of a problem.
That should be fine. I'm just more interested in things like, how does it then affect the quest? So it's fine to have this dialogue, but then if there's no state taken beyond that, that's really easy. What you've got to do is implement
I think
dialogue
the quest's
tree.
There's going to be like a quest queue, I think.
So there's got to be some sort of way for that system to then talk to another system to progress.
This is a really good point. This is, I think, our scope conversation. If we get there and say, you walk up to someone and they say, blah, 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 do you want to take this quest, yes or no? And you click yes, you've got the quest. You click no, you don't have the quest. If that's it, then, you know, that's as complex as we need to be. Or you walk up to them.
Do you want multiple quests active at once, Rick, or only one at a time?
Multiple.
Multiple quests active.
But again, if there's a difference in complexity, I think our community will be okay if we err on the side of simplicity, only one quest at a time, no branching dialogue, you know, etc. But if it's not too much extra cost to say, let's do multiple quests at one time, that makes for a much better experience. It's far, far better to have multiple quests.
The main quest type thing? Do you want a main quest and side quest type architecture?
I think that's a nice to have, not a need to have.
Is it? We can just say, because then you've got to design in UI for differentiating and code for differentiating. Yeah. You can just have a list.
I'm super worried about the UI. Like, really, we don't have a UI artist, and maybe we can get assets for UI, but that's a little bit harder. So it's quite a big undertaking.
Okay.
Like on a big RPG, there would be a handful of people just constantly pumping out UI. So anything we can do to simplify the UI is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, one thing we can do is just do text. So you have a text box and it's like Y, you just color the letter Y, yes, or something. So you just use keys. That sort of thing.
You mean placeholder, or you mean permanently?
Permanently, potentially.
Right. Well,
you don't have to click a button to say what you're responding. In the text, you can just have a letter that's colored differently. That's
yeah, but we need. My point is, we need to have a pretty box, and we need to have pretty font. We need to get the colors worked out and all that kind of thing. And then,
I can do the placeholder of that. Quite happy to just sit in Pixelmator or something and do the placeholder, and then somebody can make it look nice, just like the thumbnails are doing for the event, and get to something that's okay.
Yeah.
In fact, the recent event thumbnails look some of them starting to look quite good.
If we can find an asset pack, like a UI asset pack, and just say, like, here it is, use this one, then I think that'll make it easier as well.
Yeah, and I want to do the UI at the same time as the code. It's my way of getting too deep into the code the other day, but it's also relevant. You want to think about the front end and the back end. Not going to decouple them from the work. Well, don't care how the UI works necessarily, because you do care a bit how the UI works.
It's often really good to design a UI as the first step to trying to design your back end anyway. I find
their tendency on the stream, they were trying to push me to think about just the back end structure. I'm like, no, I need to think about how this is presented.
I always do kind of like, okay, so what am I trying to do? Yeah. And with UI as well, but it's also a tendency to do outside in. So you kind of like start by drawing the screen. And then you start trying to lay out your UI and say, like, I'm going to put a map over here and this thing over there. And I think that's always crap, because then you try and put too much UI to fill the space. Yeah. Whereas if you start from the inside out, you kind of like, okay, well, we need a dialogue, so that means we can line of text. Yeah. And we need an answer, and then we need a border around it. And then you can start to think about where's that go on the screen. And before you know it, it's cluttered, you know, but it's kind of...
Only if you need it.
Yeah.
So I think... a guy... That guy.
Some kits for UI, no? Don't you think there's like some resizable?
We can just use world-space text as well, speech bubble style.
We still need some UI around that.
We need to have nice. Yeah, I'll look on the asset store, but it needs to be decent looking. The thing is, it needs to match the game. This is the problem. If you have a UI that doesn't match your characters and your characters don't match the environment, then it all looks...
Yeah, it all needs to hang together. Well, you can help us make it hang together, Rick. But so functionally, we're going to walk up to a dude, and that dude's going to have something hanging off him, a component of some sort that says that he is the holder of a particular starting point of the quest. We're getting radius of him, and within that radius, or whenever he's on the screen, we'll have the opportunity to click on him, because they'll have something like a piece of floating text over his head, or a floating icon.
Something that says he's a
quest giver
rather than just a text giver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we start a conversation with him, which means that his text comes up on the screen, our text comes up on the screen, and there'll be something we can hit, a key or a button that leads to a quest popping into somewhere else on the screen. Probably it permanently shows us that this quest is now active. And that quest is listening for an event to happen somewhere else in the game that needs to register into that quest system somehow and say, well, now you've found the cave, or you've walked over the bridge, or you've killed the troll. And we need a general way of like either ticking off checks on initially a single action quest, but later multiple action quests. Yeah,
and presumably talking to somebody and saying like, you know, I now know to go to, I don't know, Mildred's house or something because I spoke to Bob. You know, and Bob talked about Mildred, or you went down the right dialogue tree, and you got him to talk about Mildred rather than talk about his donkey.
There's tons to it later, because the later you've got the like, it's a character. When you talk to a character, they only tell you something because you're at a certain distance through a quest, for example, or progression through the main story.
I think we should avoid that. That's I'd love to do it, but I think that's the scope that's going to, you know, there's complexity.
The bit where what a character even offers to say to you, their dialogue, can depend on a lot. It can potentially depend on like, I mean, there's lots of richness.
I would just, you know, like once you get to Bob, you can just always do the same dialogue.
Well, why don't we just talk about just that for now? Very simply, we can click on a guy who's a quest giver. So the component is quest giver. Do all quests initiate from a conversation with somebody, do you think, in the game, at least for the moment?
Yeah, I think we should do that.
Or potentially an item. It could just be an item that you click on.
I think we can. I think for now we could say it's always a person. I think
so we've got a quest giver component that we want to drop on any NPC, and when you do that, they get some sort of.
Is it always a quest giver component, or is it going to be like you've got a dialogue component and part of the specialization?
Well, it might be the quest giver requires dialogue. So a quest's always going to be given by dialogue.
I think we can give that constraint. Yeah. But sometimes dialogue is just dialogue for the sake of dialogue. You go up to someone, you're like, "Hi, how are you?" And they say.
So for Sam and I to quickly smash together now, it's like step one seems to be a dialogue component.
I'm just saying, like, what would be really good, and to teach the students too, is to do this kind of stories thing, kind of user stories type stuff. So where you have literally kind of just an idea of, I'm going to have a quest where you have to find Mildred's cat, and like just
So a story's
got to work like, and then you can think about, okay, so what constraints does that mean? We've got to, like,
I mean, I think I've got that in my head, but I'll write it out. Number one, you walk up to, there's an NPC, you walk up to him and you click on him because he's got some symbol that indicates he's going to give you a quest. So he comes into the screen, he's got a symbol, what's that? You click it. And then number two, he says something. So there's some text on the screen. And three, you accept it. And something pops up another thing pops up and says this quest is active. So you click yes, you have a conversation. You can either exit the conversation or you can say yes, I accept somehow. So it could just be yes or no. The most minimal can be, there's a guy, click on him. I challenge you to go and find the bridge. Do you accept? Yes, no. No, nothing else happens. Yes, a quest pops on the screen. Does that sound all right as a starting point?
Let's say for now that you can't decline a quest, because I don't want to have to try to design it based upon people maybe do the quest, maybe not. We'll say you always do the quest.
So the guy says, can you go and find the windmill? Find me the windmill. Go and take just go, I don't know.
I guess you can always ignore it.
But can we have switching between two characters talking? So it's always going to be the player and one other person. I don't think we need to do multiple people. So, what's the quest giver's name? Bob?
Yeah, whatever, just the quest giver.
Bob's like, go find the bridge. And then the player says, okay, I can go do that. And then Bob says, well, go do that then.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because that'll stub in that in the future, if we want to give the player different options of what they could say, then we can do that at that point. But for now, to just go with the flow.
Again, maybe it ought to be live streaming, but still, time of day. We're recording it. It's recording on Zoom, so if we want it, we can do something with it.
And so then, So
you either walk away from him or you accept his quest. If you accept his quest, it comes up on the screen. Then you go. Then we just need to go somewhere and trigger.
He would need to change his representation from "I've got a quest" into "You're currently doing an active quest for me."
Oh, is there? There's a representation of that. So quest giver.
I think so. Yeah.
Now he's in a waiting state, waiting for you to complete the quest.
Yep.
If you go up to him, he always says, "Have you done that yet?" Type of thing.
So will he have a different dialogue at that point? Yes.
So he would have a slightly different dialogue at that point.
Yeah. So
normally it's just
you just can't click on it.
That's right. Normally it's just wall dialogue, like what's going on, or get back to me soon, or have you done it yet?
Yeah, or just can't click on him for the moment. He's just got a different icon, which is I'm waiting for you.
Yep. Yeah.
And we just can't click on him for now. Would be good enough just to get the basics of it done.
Yep.
And then you go somewhere, and that somewhere needs to be tied in and reference to that same quest. So we're going to have a quest scriptable object, I'm imagining, or something with its definition, tied to this NPC quest giver, tied to the bridge that we're going to walk over, and then some way of it tying together. It'll be a bit like the special ability code, because a quest will have both data that's different for each quest, and it will have behavior that's different for each quest. So
yeah, although I expect the behavior you're going to have to drop all over the place in the world. So what you're going to end up with is you're going to have some sort of quest aggregator that will pull in the right events that come from the world, and you'll just put like game objects and different things, like a walked over the bridge detector.
Well, initially we just need a single
emit something for this particular quest, and the quest detects it and updates its checkboxes.
So then when you drop down that detector, it asks you, "What am I?" And you tell it, "You're a completion of this particular quest."
Yeah,
that type of thing.
Yeah, it's like quest X step 3 or whatever, a unique identifier for the quest and the step. Maybe.
Yeah. I think for now we can have single action results and not to have multiple steps in a quest, because we can easily say we can chain quests together a lot more easily than we can have steps in it. So Bob says, go to the bridge and talk to Fred. You get to the bridge and then you see Fred there with an exclamation mark above his head, and you're continuing the same quest, but in terms of storyline, but in terms of our mechanism, it's just you finished that quest, now you're onto this quest. He's not saying go kill the swamp donkey and pick a bunch of berries.
It's more objectives, isn't it? At that point, it's an objective system, isn't it?
Yeah,
right.
I would say no objectives. There's just a single outcome, single objective for each quest.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, rather than calling it, well,
it is
we can
a
call
quest,
it a quest, but it's more of an objective than this. It's like,
well,
the next objective, I tackle that objective, and then
that's all
I get a new objective.
That's all quests are, even in the biggest games, I think.
Well, I guess you can have branching bits to the quest. Right?
They don't tend to. They just tend to be a checklist.
Just a checklist.
Yeah, even in the big games, they're just like.
But the main thing is that they chain together. So Quest 2 doesn't present itself until Quest 1 is completed. So we need some sort of mechanism to, like, what's the criteria for this quest to be active?
Okay, so we do need state, basically. This would be the easiest way to implement it, is to have state in the dialogue where this guy will not talk to you unless you're doing quest X.
So he's active or not active.
Or if you're doing quest X, he will give you a different set of dialogue, kind of like that way you could have something like the war dialogue when you're talking to the guy. You can have the next quest chaining set up.
Yeah, but just to get this very basic use case off the ground, we want this guy. I think the first thing you have to have is dialogue, and then you have to build quest on top of that.
Yeah, but we need to leave a little gap inside dialogue to be able to activate a quest.
Yeah, so I think we should be able to add we're going to be adding let's annotate.
Are we saying that as soon as you talk to this guy, the quest becomes active, or are we saying that you have to reach the part of the dialogue tree for it to spring up?
I think we have to accept the quest.
I think as soon as you click on a character to initiate dialogue, then you can't back out of it. That's starting the quest.
So we could just
if you click the icon, basically.
Yeah, if you click the icon, then that's
So we could have a mouth component for the dialogue. I mean, who is this guy? He's an NPC. He's a soldier because he's a character who has an enemy AI, a weapon system, a health system, and a mouth. I mean, we could call it mouth. We could call it something else.
Well, can you choose one of the actual NPCs so we can? Because
I am. This is the actual NPCs, isn't it?
No, he's an enemy, not an NPC, because he's got an AI script.
Enemies are NPCs, aren't they?
No, not in the local vernacular slang of how people talk about this.
Where are these NPCs then?
You're in the village. Do you have the latest build?
Not seeing many in the village here. I did have to delete a bunch because they weren't working properly. So.
Oh, okay.
They were
That's
chucking
probably
it,
where they
so I just
There
deleted
was
it.
there was one just over next to the house,
Oh,
south
was
of where your
Well, it
viewers
doesn't matter.
are.
Why don't you delete it rather than try and fix what was wrong?
Because it was going to take too much time at the time. I can go back. I haven't done anything since. I just wanted to get it compiling and upgraded to 2018 so we could meet the needs of
Anyway,
that.
up on the hill, unless you've deleted them as well, up on the hill you'll find a ton of NPCs back at the start of the level.
Well, why not? I mean, it's in version control. If I'm not going to do anything valuable afterwards.
Well, sure. I'm just saying that in general.
I know that I've done it. I know where it is.
Broken the build.
Yeah, temporarily, but
to get it to compile, it's not.
This is a crazy old build that you've got here, Ben.
Okay, let's roll it back to where you want to be. So we were off here because I haven't seen your. I need to go download that. I haven't seen your last videos in the course. I don't really know what you did after what I did, but we were getting horrible compile errors. So. But anyway, look, Rick, for the sake of this conversation, it doesn't matter, does it? We're just trying to envisage what this would be like. So here's a dude, and imagine he's a quest giver. What are we going to do? That's what I want to annotate up. We can go get the state of the project right in a minute. So he's going to have a voice, right? Would be one thing, which means what? If you click on him, that he starts talking to you, i.e. there's a bit of dialogue comes up.
Yeah.
And some way in that voice, we're going to have to specify
camera would need to lock and player would need to lose their control over movement.
Yeah. Once you enter dialogue, that's the kind of game entering dialogue, or the player. Do we have a game at the moment? Maybe not. It's either I don't think we've got a game object. It's the game or the player enters a dialogue state.
Who controls the camera? Player, presumably.
Yeah, the camera just logs to the player most of the time. So what do you want to, how are you going to set this up, Rick? What are you going to, if this guy has a voice, what's he going to say? I mean,
Well, you walk up to him, he starts his conversation. It's like, for example, you're finally here, here's your quest.
So he's going to have some sort of opening gambit always, is that what you're saying?
Well, there's going to be a back and forth. So I think it will be, NPC says something.
Who owns the conversation?
Player clicks a button. Then the player character says something. Player clicks a button. NPC says something. So, who owns the conversation?
Yeah,
it's always going to be the player because the player's always in that conversation.
Well, it's really the game that owns the conversation.
I don't know what to know about this. I mean, it sounds to me like the NPC owns the conversation because that's where the data resides.
He's telling them. Well, the data will probably be a scriptable object down here defining the conversation.
Yeah, but it's linked to the NPC. That's the point.
Yeah.
So wherever it has to be linked from the NPC. That's the only thing that defines it. It's not the game or you that is defining which conversation.
So, Ben, are you talking about who owns the data or who owns the mechanism for?
Well, you're going to have to specify what this guy is going to say, and it seems a bit weird that the NPC is telling the player what to say.
Well, no, not really. Not in this game, can
It makes sense that if I'm talking to Bob, then the entirety of the Bob conversation is on Bob. That makes sense.
Yeah. The NPC constraining what the player can say. The other way around.
Yeah.
That's fine. So then we just have some sort of convo thing here, some sort of conversation scriptable object that may in itself then link off to other scriptable objects that we drop in here, right? So there's this convo.asset that you'll specify here. Anything else you want? What are the other parameters of this? I mean, I can click on him. Any of the guys who've got this voice can have a voice speech bubble come up or something, some sort of affordance. You need to specify the conversation, and there'll be some stuff behind that.
You need to know whether it's a quest-giving conversation or not.
Yeah, quest giver component.
Is that just a checkbox on the voice?
Or it's a link to the quest. So does it work like this? Do we have I think that we're going to have a quest scriptable object.
Probably.
No.
Yeah, so the voice has a link to a quest, which is optional, basically.
Yeah, and maybe that quest just links to both places, to there and to there. I'm giving this.
The quest component. They've all got to have voices.
If they've all got we don't initially until the voice gets too big, do we? Not unless the voice gets really big. If voice gets complicated and quest giving gets complicated, we may want to spit them out, extend the voice into quest, because there's going to be people who speak that don't give quests.
I mean, the point is they are linked in terms of configurations.
So we could just make it, as you say, an optional.
Only people with a voice give quests. So the point is you give the affordance if you have a quest giver component to put a quest giver component without voice.
Yeah, it's optional to have.
Then what do you do with what icon you show? Because what I'm envisaging is you've got 3 icons, but basically a nothing, just a conversation, and a quest giving conversation. So if you had a quest giver,
but that can just depend whether that thing's null or not.
You could have you could click on it, expect a conversation, and not get one because it's just a quest giver, and it just gives you the quest.
Yeah, we don't need a separate component of that.
Otherwise, we'd need 3. One that is like a conversation and quest. One that's a conversation, and one that's just quest.
Yeah, there's no point at the moment. You can just have this null, the quest assay, if there's no quest, and then deal around that. So Rick, there's the fundamental bit that you add to this guy a voice or a whatever component name we give it. You drop in it's kind of required that you drop a conversation assay, and if you don't, we'll get some sort of asserts or whatever that tell you that it doesn't make any sense to have a asset in optionally.
Yep. Yeah, that makes sense. I like the idea of being able to walk up to people and have a conversation that's not necessarily a quest. And I like the idea of being able to walk up to quest givers, have a conversation, and to get a quest. I think that's good.
Okay, so then the other question is, how do we trigger the thing at the other end?
What's useful to capture here is that we've made a decision on what's not going to be a feature, which is it's not going to be a feature to talk to a quest-giving conversation without getting the quest. Once you hit the guy.
Well, unless in general dialogue there's a way of clicking away to say I want to break off this dialogue, there probably should be. I find it really annoying when you can't. So
I think you could speed it up and skip through it, but I don't think you should be able to abort.
Why not just abort conversation?
Because then
I find that really annoying in a game when I've locked into a conversation. I didn't want to click on you. You're not interested. I want to just go away immediately. Why can't I just click away?
Well, because then, are you talking about a quest conversation or just a regular conversation?
Regular first. In a regular conversation, why can't I just click away?
Yeah, well, you could, I guess, yeah.
And then in a quest conversation, why can't I click away?
You just leave the conversation via an end point of the conversation rather than a cancel.
Yeah.
It's fine, yeah.
And then the quest gets registered if you finish a conversation, for example.
Yeah.
Okay, I would prefer that. So then
that makes more sense because otherwise, what's going to happen is you'll click on the guy, and then your quest thing's going to go bling. I've got a quest,
and you don't even know.
You haven't even been introduced to it.
Don't feel like you've accepted it. So imagine the bridge now. Then remember that we've still got the convo, which is not too relevant now, and then the quest definition. However, that's done, and then we're at the bridge, and we want to do something. A voice component. It's a quest target or
it almost doesn't matter what it is. What's more interesting is the signaling mechanism. It could be a custom component because you might have a cross the bridge detector. You may have a house detector.
I'm just trying to design Rick's interface for a minute. We can do the behind that, but just for Rick's point of view to keep it.
Yeah, because there's going to be
design this bit, and then we can design the program a bit.
It's always going to be an object that you're interacting with. It'll be the interaction that changes. So sometimes it'll be just reach a point, although I think that's not going to be super common. A lot of times it'll be kill a thing, although we need to have it kill multiple things. So that eventually we need a system that knows, have I killed all 4 of these particular things that I needed to kill?
Okay, guys, let's do that. The chat, the vote, everything's saying it's time to go back to live. Just wanted to prove I'm really here. And at this particular moment in time, I've got some clothes on, which is fantastic. So I hope you enjoyed the video so far. In fact, that's pretty much precisely half an hour. So I'm going to take some questions now, and then I may dive over to Discord and engage in some live chat. So I'm going to close this window down for the moment. We could roll more of that later on, potentially, if you like. I might leave that rolling at the end of the stream. That could work well, and then actually disappear. So yeah, Jan's doing a great job over on the Godot post. People are loving that. Sorry, Bindi, if I'm forcing you to use Facebook. We had to force Jan to use Facebook. There's this quite evil clip of Mark Zuckerberg saying that there are something like 4 billion people on Facebook and the rest will be soon. There's always a reason to go to Facebook. I don't know whether I like it or not, but I just use it and don't make too many moral judgments. All good fun. So, Perceptual Lucidity Games, thanks for forcing me to stop the pre-recorded. I wasn't sure about pre-recorded. I nearly left it pre-recorded and wasn't even here, but I thought that's rubbish, so I thought I'd be here. Guys, look, if you've been sitting down for a long time, let's move our bodies just for a second. I can't stand standing still for too long. A couple of things you want to watch out for using a computer too long. The couple of personal injuries I've had. I'm going to talk health just for a second, because if you don't have your health, you haven't got much. So I had a problem here with my the humerus head, the top of this bone, being too far forward. There's something called the acromion on the top of your shoulder there. Your humerus head shouldn't be sitting far forward of your acromion. It needs to be back. So when it shouldn't be overlapping by more than 25%. You can look up acromion on the web. You don't want more than 25% overlap. So when you stand with your mouse forward all the time, your pecs get tight, your ROMs get overstretched at the back, and you can end up with a forward shoulder position. So make sure that you're consciously even with that shoulder, that right shoulder, particular mouse shoulder, a little bit back, and just get in the habit of firing those muscles at the back, keeping the tone in your posterior delts there. The other thing that's really useful, we get a lot of immobility around about T4 there, sitting at a computer. So I find really helpful to put my arms up in the air just to relax my back and do gentle circles like this. Obviously not if you've got any particular injuries. But the main thing is just the best posture is posture that changes. So move now and then. Please don't sit down for too long. If you're sitting down, stand up. If you're standing up, sit down. If you're upside down, then go upright. If you're upright, then maybe go upside down. Who knows? All right. Awesome. So I could open Discord. Why don't we open Discord? See if we can get some people in live chat. Then I'll give preference to Twitch subscribers, then some voice conversation, then we'll go from there. So we'll see if that works out. Let's see if I can make this work. The sound routing is always interesting when I try and do this. I'm going to need to check some settings, but get your questions ready. Come over to Discord. I'll give you the invite link here now. There's our Discord server. Get yourself in the voice lounge over on Discord, and we can talk in voice and everything. So I'm going to output there, input there, do this, do that, push the other, grab this, do that. Discord goes to probably out to the Terra deck. Let's try that, see what happens. Well, you're going to better hear me. We've already got Bindi in the voice lounge. That is super clear. Shall I do an at everyone in the announcements to say that I am here? No, because they'll all dive on and derail the conversation from the RPG. So I won't do that right now. What I will do is just say live in voice lounge. Talking RPG. I'm not yet, but I will be in a second. Let's slam the voice lounge button, see if anybody else comes in. And my voice is connected. Bindi, I don't know if you have a microphone. If you want to try talking to me, can you hear me? It'd be cool to
I hear you fine.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you for being here. You're awesomely loyal, what do I call it, attendee of our streams. Hope the little health pep talk was okay there. I hope you don't feel I'm underqualified to talk about that. If you think I am, then I'll show you what I can do on the trampoline in the next few days.
No, actually, it's very interesting.
Cool. Then you'll believe me. I'm just going to turn my Mac volume down. Give me 2 seconds. It's really random stuff I have to do here with all the audio routing, but I think they're there. Cool. So as you're here first in voice, give us some questions, give us some feedback. How can I serve you, Bindi?
I'm sorry, man. I really have nothing. I know nothing of Unity. I'm just watching these videos, hoping that I'll understand later when I get to that in the course.
Cool. Which of the Unity courses are you currently on? Have you taken, etc.?
I own them all. I barely started the 2D. I'm mainly focused on Godot and Blender at the moment.
Awesome. Well, that's a good combination, and Godot is nice and intuitive and a great place to start, so I'm glad to hear that. That's fantastic. So let's take a little look. So rolling that video, yeah, well, there's two minds as to whether to roll that and two minds as to whether to roll it again later on. What did you think, Bindi? What was your feedback about a video that's not live but that's got a handful of us discussing the project?
Actually, I think that's pretty helpful, especially if you're talking about putting it on YouTube or something where people can pull it up and reference it later.
Yeah, that is the plan. It'll start off probably on Twitch, and then all the things on Twitch will just kind of filter down to YouTube before they expire. We've got 60 days. Hey, Dragonfly Zex, welcome to the Voice Lounge. I don't know if you have a corresponding handle over on Twitch, do you? It'd be interesting to hear. And are you here in voice, or are you just listening in? Oh, no, he's disappeared. I scared him off. Male Ninja, they'll come in voice at some time. Pocket CS Nerd would be on if he was at home. Okay, so a few questions here then. Ben from Shablo, what do you see as the future of GameDev.tv? Broad strokes, broad pictures. So we need to continue to teach all of the major game development tools. We'll make sure that we're covering Unity, Blender, Unreal, some 2D art, Godot. We may add Lumberyard or CryEngine, probably Lumberyard into that mix. We then need to start thinking about teaching you mobile deployment to iOS and Android properly, and then longer term we'll start talking about the hard stuff, the marketing, the business side, and how to do all that as we start shipping games as part of the courses. So we just want to be the best place in the world to learn game development. That's the modest goal. We're already doing pretty well on that, but we've got a lot of big promises we've made, like the RPG, that need a lot of catching up on. So we're a little bit slow in the mud right now. Stuck in the mud, but we will soon get back up to speed. Perceptual lucidity games. So you don't seem to have a scary voice. Who's the one who doesn't seem to have a scary voice? Live in the Voice Lounge talking RPG. Not sure. Hey Obo, how you doing, Dan? Nice to see you here. You're gonna talk to us? Let's put him on the spot. Lumberyard would be more useful because you can incorporate AWS. Yeah, and it's also very Twitch heavy. I think Amazon are doing really good stuff with Lumberyard. It's still early days, but I think that it's a good fork of CryEngine, and I think that's a cool thing. Don't forget DVT says perceptual lucidity games while we're on the health thing. I ended up with a clot from my lower calf. Yeah, please, just move plenty. Something like an Apple Watch or some other Fitbit, that type of thing is quite good at reminding you to move. I find that when I really get into a project, sometimes you lose track of your own body and you're not quite sure what to do. What's the Discord? Clank. Ooh. Clank. That's a play on Cantankerous. Clank. Oh, I don't know how you say that. Anyway, there is the link to the Discord, and please come and join us. If you get over there, then you're welcome to join us in the Voice Lounge. Clankysaurus. As in, is this like Ratchet and Clank meets a dinosaur or something like that? Clankysaurus? I guess Clankysaurus knows how they intended to say it, and that is correct. Ratchet and Clank meets a dinosaur. Maybe that's the bit. Awesome. Sorry about the bit where I didn't have a shirt on earlier. That I apologize for that. Hopefully I didn't offend anybody. Cloud RPG, where are you from in the world, by the way? And it looks like somebody else is trying to talk, which may be perceptual lucidity. Cloud RPG, where are you from in the world, by the way? Oh, perceptual lucidity, you're feeding back a little. So if you can either turn us down or pop headphones on, then we'd love to hear from you. Perceptual lucidity, you're feeding back a little. So if you can either turn us down or I'm just going to mute perceptual lucidity for a moment, just because I'm coming straight out of their speakers, straight back into their microphone, straight back. US Wisconsin. Well, welcome and thank you very much for being here. For the RPG production, I might need to start streaming a little bit earlier in the day because at this time of night, not 100% brain on. Although right now I'm feeling pretty good. So who would like to see me dive in and actually start putting some of this together live on the stream in Unity? Or would you rather we just talk in broad strokes for the moment? Happy to have that feedback. Poll is still up for live recorded. Thank you very much, Bindi. I will slam that poll back home right now. Yep, that's good. It's a pretty useful use of a poll there, I felt. So there's an emote coming for Rick and there's an emote coming for Lucy shortly, just to let you know. So, but they will be a couple of days because Twitch seems to have to approve every single one. Cloud EPG, let's go. I've lost track of the conversation. Let's go on what? Oh, on the project, yeah? And a couple of people would like to see that. All right, so why don't we do that? I think that the Voice Lounge, I'll leave the Voice Lounge going. I'll leave it in the background. No harm in that. What could possibly go wrong? Perceptual lucidity. Are you wanting to speak? Are you going to solve your feedback problems and wanting to speak? Unfortunately I've muted you. I think you'd have to tell me in the chat, in the Twitch chat, if you want unmuting because you're currently muting. So if I'm going to do something on the project, I need to open the repo. I need to give you guys a link to the repo, which we've all had before, I think. Well, you don't necessarily need a link to the repo. Tell me if you do, but I don't think you do. Because you're not really going to be pulling the repo and follow me along. We're just talking general terms here this evening. I'm going to do a stash. I'm going to get rid of any untracked changes as well, so that I'm just back here. And then I'm going to open the project, make sure I've got Rick's latest assets. There was a little bit of confusion where I had a little bit of a Barney about whether it's Rick's Village or Rick's Village 2. Hey, Irresistible Jelly. Mark, spoke to Mark on the actual phone call this afternoon. What's coming home? Armory UK, what's coming home? Oh, I see. You're probably talking about football. If you're talking about football, then you're lucky I got the reference, because one thing I'm not into is football. But I think you may be. All right, and that's great news if that's what you mean. So levels, I think we had a question in the chat earlier. You know, are all these assets ours? No, but we have this Village 2 that Rick has told me contains all assets that are safe to use. So, i.e., they are not. They're not containing any third-party asset packs. So let's just go and have a little look at that and see if it's got the right stuff in it. Not the right stuff as in what astronauts have. Did you know, pop trivia quiz, that I was a European Space Agency astronaut candidate at one point, and then I couldn't do it, and then I had an identity crisis, and it took me years to find something that's just as fun. In fact, I think this is better than being an astronaut because I get to see my family more. So, lots of colliders, lots of stuff. I think this is the build that contains the latest assets. It is, because it has the funky rickety bridge in it here, which really does look very rickety. I wonder what its collision mesh is, this bridge. Oh. Not seeing a collision, any collision on that. That's interesting. All right, I'm sure Rick's got it sorted. Anyway, I'm in the right village, which is cool. So we could start the very, very early. I think I'm, awake enough to start the very, very early dialogue. I think I'm going to start with first, not questing, just the very, very early dialogue features. So I'm going to pre-commit the idea that actually I'm also going to branch to say which stream I'm on. So I'm going to just say 2018 July is 7 and then 09 stream, just so I know what I'm doing here. So I've got myself a branch, and then I'm going to pre-commit without actually committing it to say that what's the very first thing I'm going to do. I'm just going to create a voice component. We can rename things beautifully easily later, not a problem. So I'm just going to keep an eye on the chat down here somewhere. This is the direction I look when there's a chat. Question, sorry, no emotes. Is there a place for info about using Git with Unity? Yeah, look back a few streams in this RPG series. I'll see if I can get you the URL. Maybe one of you guys could find the URL of the stream that I did a few days ago. I think it was episode 2 of the RPG series. That's the latest. That's the latest information that we've recorded about that. It's a little bit rambling, as all streams are, but it's that's there. All right, going to have a look at a NPC. Now, have we got any NPCs in here? Yes, we have. In the meadows. Where should we? Where's the player start point? Let's go somewhere near the player start point. So if the player is here up in the hills, let's just kind of do a mappy thing. Where are these NPCs hanging out? There they are. That by clicking there, I get a overview, and there's a guy. If I could just zoom into him, this dude here, that guy, he is Horatio, NPC1 Horatio. Okay, well, let's give Horatio a voice. Let's extend Horatio with a voice. No idea how this is going to work out, but messy and refactor. Much better to be moving forward, right, than hypothesizing or pontificating. So why voice? Dunno. I mean, he's got a weapon system and a health system and an audio trigger. Why shouldn't he have a voice? I mean, you could call it a dialogue system, but it's not a very real thing. And then you'd have to solve the problem as to whether you spell dialogue like this or dialogue like this. And then that would cause me real problems like lose and choose and chose, and those things haunt me forever. So, going to have a quick look. Saw there was a Twitch subscriber link inside of Discord. Can we look at this chat from inside of Discord? Anyone know? Don't want to bother Ben with it. Oh, Bindi, I don't know whether you can look at this chat inside Discord. I don't think so. There is some sort of link. Maybe one of the mods over on Discord can look at it. I have hooked up Discord to Twitch in some respect and then haven't played with the integration. I was hoping the mods would take a little look for us. Thank you very much, Irresistible Jelly, Mr. Mark, for handing out that, what do you call it, video? It is a version control video. Just going to have a quick squiz on Discord. Just see. No, it's only Bindi and Daz, who doesn't want to talk to us. And a question? Discord questions don't matter so much this evening. That would be me scaring somebody off. Yeah, probably. All right, so I've given this NPC a voice. What's that going to do? Absolutely nothing. My first thing when I create a new class is going to be, apart from why have I got 2 versions of Visual Studio, even though I just uninstalled it and reinstalled it, we'll live with that. the first thing is going to be, do we really need it to be a mono behavior? Big new initiative of ours is let's get out of this what people at Unity have described as the mono behavior tyranny, where everything is a mono behavior. Does this voice thing need to be a mono behavior? It's a good question. Typically, a mono behavior is something that it needs to be a mono behavior. It's going to interact with the game world in general. I know that sounds ridiculous, like everything interacts with the game world, but it really doesn't. There's a lot of things that could be pure logic that could just be a base class. There are also definitely objects that are data objects that do not need to be mono behaviors either. So I really need to close one of these. I'm going to close this one. And the solution is loaded on the left, so that's all good. Going to leave enough window staggering here to be able to just flip between them. Yep, that's cool. And let's go. So I'm going to go with the mono behavior, and I'm going to use this little shortcut that I've got in Text Expander. Awesome tool. Something else I could put on our Amazon gear list there. So MB header. And what this reminds me is what's our latest thoughts about how this classes should be laid out. So there you go. That's cool. Now, I don't think we need a start or an update. I can always put those in if I need them. And let's just sort the hanging brackets out. So the guy wants a voice. Well, what is that going to mean? So I could refer back to our video, actually. The video that in that video, we had a nice little, this thing. We didn't quite get to it, actually. We got to half an hour, but a little bit later, we talked about, okay, quest radius. No, that was for the bridge. That was for a trigger as to how you complete the quest. I need to roll back a little bit. Here, voice. We thought we'd have a conversation asset and optionally a quest asset. This is why it can be really handy to just mock it out. Like, it's really visceral that you get in the interface and annotate over it and say, well, imagine what this would be like. So we're kind of there now. I've made this voice thing, and I've said that I'm going to want a conversation asset. Okay, so let's make a conversation scriptable object for now. So I'm going to serialize field, and of course I don't have a type yet, so I need to go make a new type of script. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's call it a conversation. And am I going to make a folder called, the text I can delete. What is this text? Oh, what is this text? Hang on. Before I delete it randomly. Text.cs. That was me messing around with a crazy idea that you'd see later in the stream, which is that you'd actually organize your dialogue in the animator straight controller, which we may still do, but it's a bit crazy. I'm going to just ditch that idea for the moment, delete the text file, create myself a folder, which we may change the naming and everything else of later. I'm just going to call this dialogue and quests, and I'm just going to move these two scripts into it just to keep things organized. Oh, come on, Unity, you can move scripts quicker than that. I'm sure you can. So I'm going to scan the Q&A while I wait for Unity to decide that it's going to let me do this. I like the idea of a container with scriptable objects. Yeah, that's good to know. Data wants to go in scriptable objects, right? Behavior wants to go in mono behaviors, and pure logic wants to go in base classes, in my honest opinion. Really doesn't want to move that voice one. I'm not going to worry about it. In fact, I'm going to move this up to the top level and say, why on earth? Voice 15,1, an attribute is missing a member declaration. Let's try and sort that out. Voice, that's this. Okay, so the problem I think I'm having is that I left some text in a CS script. Unity doesn't like the fact it's kind of half broken, and therefore it wouldn't let me move it in that state. So the key there is make sure your scripts are always compilable, very, very close to being compilable. So that is, we're better. So now I suspect these two guys will go in there without any problem, apart from a speed problem. And I will check the voice. Thank you, Moonhaven222, for subscribing with Twitch Time. Remember, guys, it's not too late to get on the Tier 3 subscription and be on tomorrow night's mentoring session. We've got one person confirmed. It'd be great to get a second person on that mentoring session. Don't underestimate what it can do for your code, to just be brave enough to show us some recent code, about 100 lines or so of recent code you wrote. Show us in the community live what you've done. We'll critique it, suggest other ideas, learn from you, share our experience. That'll be Sam and I, hugely valuable. Really consider getting on there. So that's sail over. And we'll spend an entire stream trying to move files. Okay, so this conversation thing is going to contain the data about the conversation. Is it a mono behavior? No, it's not. It should be a scriptable object. Why? Because it's data. Very, very data heavy. what is the conversation going to contain? I don't know what the structure is yet, but let's just move forward. Let's just do something. Serialized field, string. I'm going to call this an opening gambit. And I'm going to show you a new annotation here, if I can remember it, which I don't think I can. Is it text area? Text area. Let's try that. So if I say on the conversation CS that it has an opening gambit, then at least the guy could start to say something, right? Now, how do I make a conversation object, right? So I've got this class called conversation, and I can say to my voice class, I can say, Visual Studio, please don't open multiple copies. Hang on. I'm fumble fingering things here at the moment. Give me just 1 second. Okay, over on the voice, I said, okay, I want to be able to specify a conversation. I didn't have anything of types conversation. I do now. It's a conversation. So I'm going to serialize a conversation called conversation, all right, on the voice. Let's go and see what that does over in Unity. We look at the character. It's Horatio. What a wicked name, Rick. And we want to create an asset that contains the conversation. How do I create that? Well, one of the easiest ways is in the conversation script. I want to say to the whole class that you want to be a, how do you do this? Create asset menu, open brackets. We've got some asset menus. How do we do this to be consistent? Right-click, create, RPG, there you go, special ability. Well, maybe I'll do that. Maybe it's RPG /. If it's not, I'll look it up. RPG / conversation. Try that. Is that going to work? What's the problem? Does not take, there's no constructor that takes one argument. Menu name, oh, file name. Right, it's going to be convo. I'm just going to call it convo, pay heritage to Rick, and the menu name is going to be menu name equals RPG / conversation, I think. Is this right? No, it's not. All right, so let's go and find an example somewhere else where we've got the correct syntax, because it's been too long. You guys are probably shouting at the screen, I know how you do this. Well, maybe you do. I don't remember. Oh, okay, you just need this. That type of syntax. I don't really need the file name. So I'm going to annotate the scriptable object like this, and it's going to be RPG / convo. Oh, I can't do that. I've got to speak real English. Okay, what that does, that attribute, allows me to come into the game, right-click and say create. Now, it's recompiling. This is what the delay is. Recompiling, and eventually create RPG. And I've broken it all. What's the problem there? Let's make sure it runs. Actually, by the way, there can just be a delay. Watch this. There you go. You see? You could go and do all sorts of debugging. Nothing had to change. I just had to wait a second for it to work its way through to these menu systems in the editor. So we create a conversation. I'm going to call this just, not test is good. Is test good? Test sucks. Hello, Horatio, or Horatio. Hello. Okay, so we have a conversation. What's Horatio's opening gambit? Why, you old duffer? I'm surprised you made it this far. Remember, our hero is an old duffer, a bit like apparently I am becoming, but I'm determined to push back age and call it just a number. But why, you old duffer, I'm surprised you made it this far is going to be his opening gambit. Awesome. By the way, I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing here, which is great because I'm still confident that we're going to make an awesome RPG and all this is going to work and the code's going to be beautiful. I just want to say that the point is that the attitude is just move forward. And just like if you're trying to climb a high mountain, you know, the peak of that thing could be up in the clouds and it could be absolutely inconceivable to imagine getting to it in one step. But every step you go higher, you can see the rest of the journey more clearly. So by starting this, I'm starting to get back into it, get my flow, and I don't know what the architecture is going to be. I've got a good idea, some idea because of the conversations we had earlier, but there's a massive gulf between the high-level conceptual conversations we had earlier and the details of what I'm actually going to do, and I'm going to fill that gulf by just coding my way into it. So Horatio, hello, or just Horatio has a conversation here. Of course, this isn't a conversation, it's just a single opening gambit, but we could go from there and we could start putting in player responses and all the rest of it. Let's just try and get to the point where Horatio can say something, right? Anyway, I need to check the chat. So let's do that. I like the idea of a container. That's good. Clank. You told me how to say that earlier, and too many things in my head. So it's going to be, I'm going to read it. I'm going to read it. I'm going to go through it. It's going to Clankosaurus. That was the word. Clankosaurus. For my RPG, I'd like an attack and a parry sort of combat system, like in Witcher 3. Do you reckon this will be the sort of thing you can make a video on? Not in the near future, I'm afraid, because we're kind of off core combat right now. What I would say is if you keep studying, keep working, keep doing things on your own initiative, you'll soon work out how to do it yourself. Perceptual lucidity, 2 questions. Is the mentoring going to be streamed live? Yep, we're going to stream the mentoring live. I know that's kind of vulnerable for you guys, but you don't have to do much. You just have to rock up on Zoom. We'll give you the link once you're a Tier 3 subscriber with a file of C#, C++, or Python open, ready to share your screen with us, and we'll take it from there, okay, and we'll be nice. How do you use the question mark? You go : GameDev.tv, and then once you start doing that, you'll see one of the options is Q for question. Now, just give me one moment. I'm looking to see if Rick's emote is here, because I would like to send Rick's emote to the web, but not happening yet. So, all right, that's going to be later. We're not going to have Rick's emote available. Where else are we? Question. Oh, they've changed it. Don't need the colon, apparently. Oh. Well, I need the colon for whatever reason. Didn't get a good idea of what I needed until you started your own dialogue system. Exactly. : GDTVQ. Have a go at that. All right, so this dude now has Horatio. If I look at Horatio, he now needs to know what conversation. Well, if I drag this piece of data, this Horatio asset of just a text file, into here, then when Unity decides that it's going to listen to me, which it isn't doing, boom, now Horatio has access to a conversation. Well, that's pretty cool, isn't it? I think that's pretty cool. So let's go over to, let's close this puppy because it's not the one I need. Can I fully close it? Yep. This multiple version. If anybody knows the solution to multiple versions of Visual Studio on the Mac, I would be super grateful because it's a pain in my butt. All right, voice. So this guy has a conversation. Why don't we just do something really basic to start with? Why don't we give void start? And why don't we just make sure that we can print to the console conversation dot now. Dot what? How do we get the data out of the conversation? How do I even print to the console down here what Horatio, on start, if we like, what Horatio's information is? Well, we need to be able to get this conversation information out of this object. Now, it's not good to make this conversation public. Really, in my opinion, the worst possible place to use public. Because if you change that field, you're going to change what's in the asset scriptable object on the disk, kind of change it permanently. That's not so good. So I don't think there's any other way around this at the moment. In the current version that Unity supports, we can't do the kind of getter that I would like to do. We can't say conversation and then whatever get : or get, however it works like this. You can't do it. It says you can't do pure getters in this version of C#. Can't do it. So what we're going to have to do, I'm afraid, is write ourselves a public conversation. It's very boring. Conversation. Or get conversation. I'm going to call it get convo just for fun. And it's just going to return the conversation. And I hate writing this type of boilerplate code just to protect, but it's really, really important in this case. So I've put that in completely the wrong place. I need to be putting this in the conversation class, of course. Doesn't matter. That's what cut and paste is for. So we have a public method, returns a conversation, and it should return the, well, for the moment, it's just going to return the opening gambit. Okay. Okay, so if I run that method on start, we should just very simply and obviously, cannot implicitly convert string to conversation. That's quite interesting. So what I've done there is I've specified a return type. If it makes sense to me, if you're going to get a conversation, that you get a conversation back, and it has no way of converting my weird conversation object into a string. So I have two options: either return a string here, or over here I can try doing a .toString on it, which I think what I'm going to do, because a conversation is going to become a richer object later. So I think we'll pass the conversation back. And it still doesn't know how to make a conversion, which is probably reasonable. I could write some operators to do that. I may do that later. This is an example of just, let's do a to-do. So to-do, consider creating cast from convo to string. But for the moment, I'm just going to return a string. You could even name this method, or you can rename this method. Good old C#. You've got to love the refactoring ability. Get convo as string would be even more expressive.
Hello?
Oh, hello. We have somebody on Discord. Give me just 2 seconds to get to this bit where this prints out, and I shall be with you and answer your question. So what I'm hoping is that Horatio is going to put his opening gambit in the console. I'll make a commit, and I'll answer some other questions. Hello, you old duffer. Or why, you old duffer? I'm surprised you made it this far, says Horatio. Good. So we have a really basic setup, which I like. Awesome. I'm going to commit, and then I'm going to take this question. So what have we managed to do? Create voice component. Yeah, I think we did that. Push it to the stream. I need to decide what files I'm going to push. Maybe nothing is saved. What's going on here? This is me not knowing how to use source tree. What on earth is going on here? Where are my changes? I don't know where my changes have gone. I'll worry about the version control stuff afterwards. That is really strange. Maybe it's not behaving. Okay, over to Discord. Let's go have a chat over there. Who have we got on the line? It's got to be Stealth for win, I reckon.
Oh, yeah, no, it's me, man.
Oh, and you've got to be in Australia, by the sounds of it.
No.
No, I've made the most common mistake. Okay, let's not talk about where you're from. I'm embarrassed now. How can I help you?
No, it's fine. It's all good, man. I'm just leaving now.
Oh, you're just hanging out? No questions or anything? Oh, he's leaving. See, I'm scaring them off left, right, and centre. Look at that. All right, let's go. Hey, Daz, I think you're speaking now.
Yeah, the essential part of my audio equipment was to plug the mic in.
Oh no, that's technical.
Certainly helps.
And double clipping a script. Yeah, my Mac has just got a problem at the moment. I'm just catching up on the chat. Is he asking? No, I'm asking how not to run 2 copies, Bindi. I have no idea. File build settings, player settings, other settings, scripting runtime version, experimental 4.6. Thank you, Twitch Doc. I know you can upgrade the version. I think we actually need C#, a higher version than that, to write our pure getters. But regardless, using the experimental build version in the course. Male Ninja Max, I'm sorry that I intimidate people. I wonder why. Do you feel safe and comfortable here, Dan, or do you feel scared and intimidated?
I'm all warm and cozy.
He's all warm and cozy. So it's not everybody. I'm sorry, Male Ninja, if I put somebody off. I guessed the country wrong. That probably killed it. Don't manually open VS. Don't think I did. I'm just clicking the strips. Anyway, so let me quickly work out what's going on with my version control here. Why, basically? I've made a bunch of changes. Where am I physically? Village 2 Unity. What I'm going to do is reveal where this is on the disk. Now, this is in which structure? New model. Yep, so it's in the RPG new model assets. Okay, now let's go and see where it thinks this stuff is. If I reveal this in Finder, we are in, RPG section 4. There you go. Therein lies my problem. I have the wrong source tree. Window open. Very simple. All right, let's go here. And that's fine. So what stream number are we on this evening, guys? It's number 5, isn't it? So I can just branch, call it stream 5. Thought it looked unfamiliar over there. I was in the wrong repo altogether. Not a problem. And we commit this as created voice object. I'm going to share with you the RPG GitHub link right now, just so you know exactly where we are. Where did I just commit to? I committed to part 2 of this epic journey. 3 branches, and I've just gone to stream 5. So this streams branch is there. Okay, awesome. Any other voice questions before I dive back into fleshing out this dialogue system? So we have a ratio here. He's got a voice script on it. The voice script is super thin and simple. It just has the ability to specify a conversation. What does the conversation do? Just has the ability to have an opening gambit for the moment and a getter to get that opening gambit back. What are we doing? On start, we're printing out that he has an opening gambit, and that's all good. All right, so what's the next thing we need to do? Well, there is no one next thing. Like any set of functionality, geometrically, I feel like it's the surface of a sphere, although Sam always argues with me because he likes to be right, and he often is. But I always feel like a project or a piece of functionality is like the surface of a sphere. It's finite, but there's no obvious center to it. The surface of a sphere, there's a limit to the size of the project, there's a limit to it, but there's no starting point, right? So it feels like that. So it kind of doesn't matter where I go next. I would like to be able to click on this character. I'd like some affordance that this character wants to talk to me. So that's where I would like to go next. Does that sound good with you guys? If it does, slam the chat in Twitch to say, yep, that's what I'd like to hear. Why the big pause? You said to the bear. Anyway, I'm going to start going in that direction, regardless of what you buggers think. By the way, if you're wondering about fleshing out this conversation as a very next step, we could simply, before we worry about queues or lists or anything genericizing any of this, we can simply do a few things to get a bit of a conversation off the ground like this. We can just say, well, what's the opening gambit? And then, what is player response? And we can simply do that, right? And then our conversation has kind of started. If we click on this conversation scriptable object now, so we find out whether we get data migration. One of the things or schema migration, one of the things people were talking about is would we get the right kind of schema migration? This was a very simple schema migration. What I mean by that is we had previously one schema, data scheme, which is that a conversation just had an opening gambit, and now now we have a schema that says we have an opening gambit and a player response. Question, would the existing conversation items, like Horatio's conversation, would their data migrate? Well, it has migrated, which is good. So that's one of the things I wanted to test. Why, I'll get you, you young whippersnapper. Or whatever. Obviously, I'm not writing the content for this because I'm not in the slightest bit funny, but I'm putting something in it. It's a placeholder, and it's better than the words placeholder. Are we going to do branching dialogue? Probably, but not just yet, right? We're just keeping things super simple for now. So get convo as string is going to need to do something different now. It's going to need to do get opening gambit, and you could start to do this type of stuff. You could start to say NPC says, if you wanted to write a lot of test code, although I'm not going to write a lot of test code because that's going to be really boring, and then you could say player replies, and then this type of stuff. Ooh, if I can get my pluses in the right place, like so, and probably a \n on that. All right, let's try that. So now Horatio, if we start, clearly we're going to start to see the very basics of a conversation, which is just 2 lines, and that's enough de-risking there. NPC says, why you old duffer, I'm surprised you made it this far. Player replies, why I'll get you, you young whippersnapper. Great. You can see that these are the beginnings of a conversation. What do we need to do next? Well, because this dude, now remember we're using composition here, right? A player looks very much like a NPC. A player, if we look at the components that a player has, and I flick between a player and the NPC, look, the player has a character, a player control, some special abilities, a health system, and a weapon system. If I was to sort these alphabetically for a moment, oh no, hang on. Why does it not like that? That's a shame. It doesn't like that because it thinks if they're in a different order, it's different to the prefab. So I'll leave it. But basically the point is that the player, if you try and vaguely remember, is a player because it's a character with player control, special abilities, health, and weapons. An NPC is an NPC because it's a character without player control, but with a weapon system, a health system, very same as the player, an enemy AI, which is doing the control, and in this case, an audio trigger. And in Horatio 1's case, a voice. He's the first NPC to gather a voice. Lucky Horatio. All right, so that's what makes him what he is. We're putting together by composition here. So that said, if he has a voice component, we want to do something to give this dude some affordance. How are we going to do that? Now, I need to think about that for a moment. Ideally... Oh, I think somebody else is in the voice.
No, just me, man. Just me.
That's cool.
I'm just wondering who are you talking to, Bean?
Oh, do you not know that we're over on Twitch?
Oh, no, I don't know. Sorry.
Okay. I could just be talking to myself and be slightly insane. No, we're over on Twitch, twitch.tv/GameDev.tv. I'm streaming my screen live and the Twitch chat live and my ugly mug live and the Unity project, the RPG that I'm working on live over there.
Oh, okay.
So you're very welcome to join us. Where are you from? And I'm sorry I guessed it wrong before.
New Zealand.
Ugh, you see, I shouldn't. I have New Zealanders working with us here, and I still keep getting it wrong. I apologise for insulting.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay, cool. So we are trying to add dialogue to our NPCs. That's what we're trying to do. Now, I want to add some affordance. Now, ideally, this dude would have something, a prefab piece of UI, probably world space UI, pop up above his head when he is able to talk. So I'll start with the cube. Let's just add something to this dude. Let's create a child object. Create empty child. Let's call this a speech bubble. We can prefab this later. That's cool. Maybe we move the speech bubble up above his head. Let's add a component. Is it a component I want to add? What do I want to add? Something like a piece of... I probably need a world space canvas. Do I need a whole new canvas? I probably don't. What shall I put above his head? What have we already got above people's heads we can use for inspiration here? Above enemies' heads, in the meadows, we have Barry the Thug. Let's go have a look at Barry the Thug. What's he got? If we look at, apart from some nasty disease, he has an enemy canvas that contains a health bar. Okay. Do any of the NPCs already have canvases? I think they don't. Oh, no, Horatio's got himself an enemy canvas. Look at that. I forgot that. Where did he get his enemy canvas from? He probably got it from his health system, to be honest. If we look in the health system, let's go look at the health system script. I daren't double-click it for fear that the blinking Visual Studio will open another thingy me up. So let's go look at enemies. Where did we leave our health system scripts? Bound to be health system. There it is. Let's look for canvas in there. So this is ages old. No, there isn't. Not quite sure how they're tied up. Where do we tell? Health bar. Yeah, they are. They're wired up like this. So this dude's health system isn't wired to his enemy canvas. But what it tells me is that I can actually put the speech bubble. Perhaps enemy canvas should be renamed NPC canvas. It probably should. So let's make a note of that in voice for the moment. Anywhere will do. To do rename enemy canvas. Why not right now? Because I want to talk to Rick about it. To NPC canvas. Okay, we'll do that later. Oops. So we can put this speech bubble, which is very much like a health bar. In fact, it's so like a health bar, I'm going to just copy it. Why not reuse the work we had before? Now it's Horatio 1. I'm going to turn on his enemy canvas, go and see him. He'll now end up with a health bar above his head. Going to turn off his health bar, duplicate the health bar, call it a speech bubble. Now, this is where I get into needing a asset. Now, I'm not going to have a speech bubble, so I'm going to go and grab something off the web. Bubble, not buggle, but Google knows what I mean. Who needs to spell these days? Hey, I better check the chat. Branching dialogue one day. You confused the key with an Aussie. I know. I'll never live it down. I'm sorry. Dropping the stream. I'll watch again later. Okay, Bindi, I don't know if it's our fault you're dropping the stream. According to the Twitch Inspector, it is not our fault and that it is stable and all is good. So I apologize for your point of view. Now, I'm going to do a usage rights labeled for reuse with modification, but it's still not completely reliable list. Don't use this stuff in production code. Pixabay, I believe, is all completely free. Commons.wikipedia is even more likely to be free. Well, I'm going to use this one, and then we're going to, obviously, Rick checks all this stuff before we start using it in production code. So any old speech bubble will do. Let's go stick it into dialogue and quests. Where did that go? Desktop, speechbubble.jpg, boom. Now, is that processed properly? Probably is good enough. NPC speech bubble. Let's go stick it on there. No, what's wrong with that? It should be a sprite. Single sprite. Stick his speech bubble on. Come on, dude. Take the speech bubble. Take the speech bubble. You know it's good for you. There you go. All right, now, where is that speech bubble and why can't I see it? Is it ridiculously big? Is it ridiculously small? Is it in the wrong place? Am I not rendering it? I'm not rendering it. There you go. Now let's have a look at him from the front. Kind of a ridiculous looking speech bubble. What's up with that? It's just not scaled right, is it? Let's sort the scale out. Now, where's it gone? Ah, scale of 0. That's not going to work, is it? There you go. Now, what is up with the shape of this? Anybody see what's up with the shape of that? Width and height, probably. 2020. There you go. You know what? For the sake of, like, getting the functionality working, I'm going to be lazy enough to leave it like that. That's pretty unforgivably ugly, isn't it? Maybe I'll spend 2 seconds in the sprite editor making sure that it's okay. It seems to be. I'm kind of not really caring. Rick raises a really important point, which is I can't talk about how art needs to get done because I'm terrible at just not caring. I'm like, there's something there, somebody else can sort it out. That is pretty awful, I know, and it's not that I don't... fill amount, that's what's doing it. We don't even need this filled, we just need a simple image like that. We also ought to be having... transparency in the background of that, of course, and so on. There's a certain amount you can do about transparency somewhere in here. Alpha is transparency. Could you not do that? No, it's the wrong way round. No, I thought I could go in and edit this image, but hey, look, messing around with assets, not my bag, baby. This is nice and bold. Let's just leave it like that. You could just throw up a panel. I know, I've just gone a slight step further. At least that's easily swapped out, right, by Rick when we get there. Let's just go and look at the scene. There he is. Horatio's wandering around with his beautiful, perfectly crafted speech bubble above his head. He's doing great. It's pretty obvious, though, that we can talk to this puppy now. So what I want to do next is to, and I'm going to pre-commit that this is the kind of path that I'm on. I'm going to pre-commit the idea that what I want to be able to do next is instantiate a speech bubble automatically whenever you add a voice component. That's what I want to do. So I've got my speech bubble. Now I want to prefab that speech bubble and then find a way of instantiating that prefab as a child of this actor, possibly in some sort of socket so you can work on the positioning at runtime. So imagine that this dude did not have a speech bubble. The voice is going to need to know what game object to attach the speech bubble to and possibly have an offset of... we'll either do the offset in the editor or we'll do the offset in text. Haven't decided in a parameter. Haven't decided yet. But certainly I don't want to go searching for enemy canvas by name. That kind of sucks. But ideally I can just add voice and not do anything. So how do I put this in the right place without either using a string reference for enemy canvas? I could use a prefab to prefab link. That would probably do it. Let's try that. So let's go into voice. Let's go and say another configuration parameter is I need to know which transform actually is simple enough or complicated enough. Bloody Visual Studio, look at it coming up again. I'm going to say canvas. Visual Studio, you're going to piss me off. That's a technical term. So I'm going to serialize the canvas. So let's go back to Horatio and say on his voice here, what is the canvas? We'll worry about the prefab links and stuff later, but just give me a link to this canvas transform. All right, so now we know exactly where the canvas is in order to instantiate this speech bubble. So now I'm going to want to serialize the speech bubble prefab, aren't I? So what is this thing? It's just a game object, because that's what prefabs are. And I'm going to call it the speech bubble prefab. Okay, let's go and tell Horatio. I need a Rick so I can just code. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. So we need to say this is your speech bubble prefab, Mr. Voice component. The end result of this will be should be able to slap a voice component on any of these guys, and a beautiful, I keep reminding you how beautiful my speech bubble is, a beautiful speech bubble will appear immediately above their head. Come on. Come on. What's the problem? Okay, so sometimes when you can't drag, it's because you're trying to do something stupid, and then I would look at the clock and say that's quite likely at this time of night, and sometimes it's just because Unity is being silly. In this case, Unity was being silly. So it now knows what the prefab we need to instantiate is. We probably, and this is not nice, but I'm going to do this for now, serialize field, some sort of float, which is speech bubble height. And if we get a lot of stuff here, we can start breaking it into sections or splitting it out into different objects or whatever. And let's just say that that is, how high was that speech bubble before? Well, we test it, right? We instantiate the speech bubble ourselves, because this is what we're going to write into the code in a minute. Unity, I'm here, buddy. Here, Unity. Come on. Good boy. Come on, Unity. Come on. It's not a dog, I know, but hey, it's really not happening. Dude, it's not that hard. What is this Mac doing? Yes, I know. Light up the chat with I should be buying a PC. Yada, yada, yada. Come on, mate. Come on, Unity. You can do it. Holy crapper, it's not a worky. What is going on? I'll run the game again then. It's not me streaming. My streaming's zero overhead with my whizzy hardware. Yay! At last! It looks like, actually, it doesn't need any offset to be perfectly positioned. You see how perfectly positioned that is above his head? Transparency, beautiful. Everything's perfect about it. So we don't need an offset, so I'm not going to complexificate. There you go, that's complexificating a word, isn't it? Because it's not even a word. You know what it probably was? Again, I made this mistake earlier. My script wasn't running, right? It wasn't compilable. Therefore, Unity was, the technical term is dropping a bollock, but I'm not sure what the non-technical term is. It would not allow me to connect it. So what we need to do is on what? Now we need to think, is it on start, on awake? Well, let's have a little look at the Unity execution order. When do we want to attach this speech bubble? Well, it's been a while since I used Unity, so it's not in my head. Luckily, it's in their docs. Here is the web page I'm on. Light is baking. With a speech bubble requiring canvas, would that be an issue with putting the script on the canvas? No, apart from I want a bit of look at the Horatio at this level and immediately see what is Horatio, what is he composed of, and I don't want to be diving into Horatio on NPC to know that this is basically the template of an NPC. In fact, our system is much more flexible on that. You can have NPCs that have health or don't have health, or carry weapons or don't have carry weapons, or are controlled by AI or lemons, and have audio triggers or don't, and have voices or don't. So, and I want to be able to see that at one level, right? At the moment, we've actually got quite a lot of possible permutations of a character. If you assume you have to have a character, then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What's that? 32 possible permutations of characters already. So that is my point. And whether it's a good point or whether it's well made and presented, I do not know. I'm not sure when I put this. It's probably on enable. Let's go with on enable just for fun and see what happens. Oh dear, what can the matter be? I've got another freaking Visual Studio up the lavatory. All right, so I don't need to print out this test code anymore. We know that works. We're going to go void on enable and see if that works at the right time. And we're going to say we're going to instantiate, and we're going to instantiate the speech bubble prefab. And the parent object is going to be the canvas. Simples with a Z. Let's see if that works. So, Horatio, you may note, at this moment in time, does not have a speech bubble above his noggin. But when let's try removing the voice script. Ideally, this would happen the moment I add the voice script. Or at least at some point soon after. Unity. Hello. Right, okay. Let's play. Why am I playing? Because I'm making sure my scripts compile. Seems to be having a bad day at the moment. So, come on, Horatio. Hey, good man. All right, so not going to happen there because clearly most of this stuff is balked. So we link in the conversation. We link in the conversation. All right, I'll just do it this way. We link in the canvas transform. We link in the speech bubble prefab. That was the thing it was missing before because we don't have a prefab to prefab link in this speech bubble prefab. I could actually do that straight away, probably. Oh, my architecture's off here, isn't it? This is where perceptual lucidity games' idea would be better, but I'll persist with what I'm doing for the moment in terms of putting the script on the object, but I do want to see the composition of the character at the top level. So now if we play the game, does Horatio end up with a speech bubble instantiated above his head? If he does, that's a victory. And oh, there you go. Look at that. Awesome. Doesn't he look beautiful? All right, that'll do. That is my commit. I think I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to run that video we started at the beginning, and then you guys can tune out if and when you want. Otherwise, not. So I'm going to close this. Actually, my elbow's getting knackered as well. That's the other thing with sitting at a computer too long. doesn't do your elbow any good. So, this is a climber's stretch, by the way, from rock climbing. You might want to do that. So you put your arm out like that. I'll stand over here, and then fingers down, and then hold your hand like that. Can work quite well. The other things, of course, are good to do. Grab behind your back. That can be good as well. I know you probably can't hear me over the side of the room because this is too good a noise-cancelling mic, but we'll live with it. Okay, let's commit what we've done. Instantiate speech bubble at runtime, success. Then I think what I'm going to do is start to have a life this evening a little bit. I'm going to stream tomorrow more. I'm not sure exactly what time. I won't bring my main diary up on the screen because it has all sorts of personal details in it. I'll look on the other screen. I'll probably start streaming from about 4 p.m. UK, which is about 10 a.m. Pacific, and you American dudes will have to deal with the fact that's a little bit early, but at least I'll get some work done. Not sure exactly. I'll throw up a schedule shortly. So there we go. We've made another commit. We've made a bit of progress. We're off the ground. We have started, done the stretching. Good man. Well done, Jasper. Good to keep your body moving. That will be awesome. I will, for fun, one afternoon show you a few of my tricks. I can do things like walk down flights of stairs on my hands, which is always good fun. I may die, and then you won't get an RPG course. Not from me, anyway. Also, been trying some weird somersaults on the trampoline, like a back somersault traveling forwards. Ugh, gainer, horrible. Back somersault traveling backwards. Front somersault traveling forwards, quite easy. Front somersault traveling backwards. Ugh, that's horrible. So I'll try that as well. And again, I might die, in which case you won't get an RPG from me. But it will be fun watching me try. So thank you very much for being here. I'm going to shut off over in the voice lounge. See you, Daz. Thanks for being there. You want to share your tones with us? See you, mate. Good to have you here. I'll at everyone next time I'm on here, and we'll have a voice lounge full. I just didn't want all the stragglers, bless them, diving in and derailing our RPG conversation. So that's why I didn't do that. No offense to our huge community of wonderful students. All right, so I'll disconnect over there. All right, cool. I'm going to leave this video rolling. I'm going to roll it back about 2 minutes, so you'll have about a 2-minute overlap with where we were before. You've got an hour to run, a lot of value in it. If you've got the time, you've got the energy, watch it. Please clip it, share it, etc. I will try and remember to stop this stream in 1 hour's time. I will not be in the chat most of it. I will be in the chat on my mobile, kind of half watching the chat and half having, ooh, look at that, that's exciting, half having a life. So I will full screen this, play it, and then stop the screen after that. So I will look forward to seeing you guys on the next stream, which is the mentoring session tomorrow night. Remember that if you are a tier 3 subscriber, you get to have your whole coding life transformed in an instant. That sounds like I'm overselling it. I'm probably overselling it, but hey, it's still amazing, even if I am. So we are looking for our 4th tier 3 subscriber. If you subscribe in the next sort of 6 hours, oh, not 6 hours, in about the next 12 hours, then you can still get on tomorrow's mentoring session. There'll be some other streams. Look out for an RPG stream sooner than advertised. I know I don't have another one in the events list right now, but there'll be 1 or 2 coming very shortly. And enjoy this pre-recorded video with Rick, Sam, and I. Should be fun. And see you soon, guys. Bye.
It makes more sense because otherwise what's going to happen is you'll click on the guy and then your quest thing's going to go bling, you know, I've got a new quest.
And you don't even know what's
you haven't even been introduced to it.
Don't feel like you've accepted it. So imagine the bridge now then. Remember that we've still got the convo, which is not too relevant now, and then the quest definition, however that's done. And then we want to now, we're at the bridge. And we want to do something here. So what is this? This is no longer a voice component. It's a quest target or a...
It almost doesn't matter what it is. What's more interesting is the signaling mechanism. It could be a custom component because you might have a cross the bridge detector. You may have a house detector.
From Rick, I'm just trying to design Rick's interface for a minute. We can do the behind that, but just for Rick's point of view to keep it.
Yeah, because there's going to be
design this bit, and then we can design the program a bit.
It's always going to be an object that you're interacting with. It'll be the interaction that changes. So sometimes it'll be just reach a point, although I think that's not going to be super common. A lot of times it'll be kill a thing, although we need to have it kill multiple things. So that eventually we need a system that knows, have I killed all 4 of these particular things that I needed to kill?
Yeah, so I don't think it's just a quest objective. I think it is a bridge crossed detector. It is like, what is that thing? It has to be specific.
It can be both, like a special ability. It can be that it's a quest objective, and then you have a bridge.
Why do we need that? I mean,
Because there's going to be a bunch of stuff that's common to quest objectives, like signaling up to the bridge quest system.
Oh yeah, but that's just shared code. We can do.
Yeah.
I mean, shared code. We could move out into static class. We could move it out into lots of ways of dealing with the shared code. I'm thinking about, what's the necessary interface for Rick to have? Is he needs to say this is detect the crossing of the bridge, and it needs to finish this quest or start this quest.
Mm-hmm. You're saying make this component specific for each one rather than a generic. Yeah, it can inherit from something generic, like whatever we do, or components, however we end up doing it.
Or it can insert another component automatically and run. But I think, it's we crossed the bridge or we killed the guard that you'd stick on the particular guard you're supposed to kill.
And can we listen for the fact that you've killed 3 guards and not just 1?
Yeah, I guess so. We might have to stick that. I don't know how we would do that. We'd need to stick
The guards would have to register themselves, wouldn't they, as part
You'd
of
have to put some sort of... you could put a component on each guard that then links to another, maybe invisible object in the scene that contains the actual objective. So you'd have like 2 different types of object, one which is like individual guard killed and guard group killed, which signals.
I do.
Something like that might make sense. Or you could easily make them communicate with each other if you give them just an ID, like say guard group ID, and call it like a gang of thugs, and then they all look for the other gang of thugs ones and then make sure that they're all dead, and then signal when the last one leaves the group, kind of thing.
So initially, the bridge quest would just be like a bridge quest.cs in this case, it's code. And we were just going to put that on there, and it may have some configurable parameters about how close to the bridge you have to get, how long you have to spend on it, or something. But it's just straight up custom code. That's
I wouldn't call it bridge quest. I'd say it's like a bridge, bridge crossed quest signal or something.
So you're saying every quest has its own script?
No, I'm saying that every type of interaction with an object has its own script.
Right.
Every behavior needs its own script. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And differentiate by you can share data amongst different quests. So like once you've got a behavior, which is that when I get in radius of this thing, it's that contributes to a quest, and that is one script. That is a quest radius script or quest radius trigger or something, and it's a script that just all you can adjust on its radius. You put it on the thing, you link it to the quest.
Yeah.
But this is going to need to be linked to the quest.
You definitely have a quest radius, for example. That might be a very
that would be a good
one.
That would be that's the example here, isn't it? So you go quest radius. Now, if you need to put that on a sub object instead, so that you can choose where it's pinned in the middle of the bridge, then you do. So you have this quest radius script. You have the radius, which is 10 meters. You put it in a box.
Be on its own game object, right? You could just chart the game object here to place it somewhere in the middle of the bridge.
Then you have exactly, and then you have the quest asset as well.
Yeah.
And then we work out how to make that work.
And then what we'll do is we'll say, well, we know that the quest is the same one because it's the same asset.
Yeah.
And signal to whatever object is in the scene.
Yeah, there'll need to be a quest, some sort of quest tracking object.
Yeah.
Could just be the game to start with. We don't even have a game, so we might want to introduce a game and then factor it down into.
Or because we don't have a game, we could just introduce a quest tracker.
Yeah, we could.
Can you call it something other than game, like call it core game or game logic or something? I find it super confusing when I'm talking about game in our game, playing the game.
It's what they use in Unreal. I would go with game instance.
Yeah, game instance. Yeah.
But game instance, quite, that usually belongs to kind of like between levels. Whereas they call it game mode.
That's the parameters of how you're playing the game. So not the state of that game instance. Yeah, state. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. We can rename things easily, which is so that's fine. So with that, if that was the initial thing we did, you would be able to put simple conversations or non-branching, just back and forth conversations.
No, branching. Why not branching?
You don't need branching from the word go.
See, there's branching and then there's fake branching, and I think we would do fake branching.
That's where you give multiple responses and they still say the same thing.
Yeah.
Or where you give multiple responses and they actually say something different, but it never actually changes how the game ends up playing.
That's right. Yeah. So
which one? Because there's both, isn't there? There's the one where it's like completely fake, where you can give multiple responses and that doesn't
even change how they.
Yeah.
So my feeling of from a scope point of view is that we don't change the outcome of the conversation based upon what the player chooses. The player might choose the tree of dialogue that it goes to, but the end result's going to be the same. So it's flavor as opposed to proper decision making. For example, go to the bridge.
Quest then, or like, thank you so much for doing the quest, but basically,
exactly, it's tone as opposed to outcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah, so it is like it's just a proper tree of conversation, and we don't assign any functionality to any of the end nodes or intermediate nodes.
How would we, if there is that dialogue backwards and forth, how would we manage that?
That fake you're talking about is not even a tree, is it? It's just...
The first one I was talking about is not even a tree. That's just...
This is just... The NPC says this. The player optionally says this, or this. Then the NPC just says this. And then, so it keeps collapsing.
But I think Rick's saying not that simple.
How simple do you want it, Rick?
Well, it's... In terms of the system that you guys create, I think if it's NPC, player says this, and then we do have the option of going like this in terms of what the NPC says.
More.
NPC, and then back to player like that, and then back to end result. So if you say A, then you get response A. If you say B, you get response B. But ultimately, we end up at the same destination, which is a little bit different to here, where you get the same NPC each time. So that would be, for example, bugger off, no, you bugger off, okay, let's do this, versus you're very lovely, no, you're very lovely, okay, let's do this. So
yeah.
So this will give our students a lot more creative possibility, whereas this...
An editor like this. This is going to be really juicy. Like, how do you do a dialogue tree editor, or do we do it in external software?
And what are we going to store the dialogue in? We talked about using serializable objects, which are okay. They're like JSON, but they're not. They're just like, you've seen those.
I mean, you can put them, but they're going to suck. They're going to look awful. I guess you could just do it in JSON, or you could just do, what would this? This is just nodes. So you have.
I think we can just do it in the inspector. I think we can just
Probably can. It would have to have.
Each line of text can be a scriptable object potentially. Each line, and then you can just go. You can just have fields that are arrays. So this is one line of text, and then you have two under an array for the response. Then what type of thing?
I think it would have to have like an ID for the node of the conversation, and then the response chosen takes you to a certain ID.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to do this either without some sort of custom inspector components.
Do they have dictionary type things, maps?
Don't think so. We can have a look. I think we're going to have to do custom inspector stuff, unfortunately. Unless you do something a bit weird and proprietary.
Do JSON.
Yeah, we know to be able to do it in the inspector there. Right where you are, be able to see what these people are going to say.
How is this usually done, Rick?
In other tools, Artisy Draft. If you Google Artisy Draft, that would costs money, but that's if I was on a game team, then someone would have taken 2 months to build something that would be a nice, a nice tree looking thing.
Yeah. Yeah, we want to build that as we go, though.
We've basically
done. Yeah, we just can't compete with how you would do this. Like if we were doing this as an indie project, we would spend $50 and we would use a tool. Yeah. But if we're going, is there
a tool like that there's a free version of?
Not that I could find when I investigated this last time.
Already looked, okay.
I mean, I can look again. I know there's folks in the community that have suggested things in the past, but it didn't feel like there was anything that made it that I felt confident that we could use it without being if something went astray. So this is Artisy Draft. This is the way you would do it in the industry. They actually contacted us after the Kickstarter, wanting to know if we're interested in using the tool, but it costs money. There's not a free version. Yada yada.
Super handy having their images on there actually as well. This is
I mean this tool. I'll research this again. I think there might be something that might be okay in Unity as a freebie, but I'll look into it.
We can't repurpose the animator.
No, I don't think so.
No?
It's not enough.
What do you mean?
I don't think there's enough flexibility in the animator.
No. Just need to draw some boxes.
So if you look at what we're doing in Text 101, I was using draw.io and then putting it in as scriptable objects. And it was quite the ordeal for me just to create like a very short
what the data structure would have to look a bit like in JSON. So maybe I can draw.
Yeah, but they're not going to write it in JSON. That's the thing. Well, they're just not.
Really
Rick's not going to write it in JSON.
I mean, you draw it on paper and then you translate it into JSON. It's not that hard to follow. The idea is, why are you saying that they won't write it in JSON? Because they won't be able to format JSON.
It's just not a very ergonomic way of doing it. It's very non-human, non-designery way of doing it. Ask them to write JSON and not make any syntactical mistakes.
But we'll say you just go ahead and buy Artisy Draft. If you're too cheap to do that, then you teach your designer to use JSON.
It's definitely the backup plan, JSON. I'm wondering if we can repurpose the animator, though.
Really?
Well, no, I mean, it's just a way of...
But we don't. We want a more constrained thing than just any old node graph. What you need to have is an NPC dialog, the list of options you can choose, and which next node of NPC dialog they lead to. So that's what a node is. A node is NPC dialog plus options and where they lead to.
Yeah.
So
where is there an example here somewhere?
Slight animator.
Yeah, I was just wondering. It's worth a quick look because there's already that diagrammatic functionality. If there's some way of putting a component.
If you were going to spend any time on it, you'd write your own, and it's not going to be that hard. But it's teaching them to write their own.
Yeah, which we don't really. But why not?
But if you're going to spend any amount of time, if you're going to write serious amounts of dialogue, like reams and reams of it, which you would for any game, then you'd spend the time on making a nice editor function for it. And a custom one, and it wouldn't be that hard.
Yeah. Yeah, it does just make me wonder if we can't use what's already here. This is already half the way. I know it's using the wrong.
Yeah, how do you add dialogue to this?
I don't know. I mean, if this was a new empty state, which is a bit of dialogue, how would you add dialogue into it sensibly?
Yeah, change its name or something.
You would, yeah, wouldn't want to hack it.
Have a look at the link I just sent you. That was what the community had recommended last time round. It's a tool called Fungus, and it's free.
Look at all the. Gonna make it bigger, mate. So let me see it's done. Right.
Oh, what is it?
That's it.
It's a flow chart.
Yeah. already shown you how you use it, is it, most of it? So you
We've
really
got
get,
tutorials, I guess.
you get an idea here, commands. Very custom. Say this, fade sprite, move to that. Well, fade sprite, move to, that's all animator stuff. Or if you're going to animate.
Not really. Animated about states.
No, but
Are
if you're going
you,
to fade a sprite
are
or
you
move.
watching the video?
No, I'm just looking at it. Just
Check
looking
out the video at like, well, at the very start of the video after 3 seconds.
Okay.
I think that's the functionality we'd want to use for it.
All about Fungus features. Fungus is an interactive storytelling extension for Unity 3D. It's been used by people all over the world to create visual novels, role-playing games, and hidden object games.
It's bloody light.
Fungus has been specifically designed for people with no programming experience. It's also a great way to learn the basics of Unity 3D without having to learn C# or Unity script. The main feature in Fungus is a powerful visual scripting system based on the simple concept of designing a flowchart.
Diddly-dee potatoes.
For creating character dialogues.
Okay, so yeah, I get the idea of your interface. I would want to spend half an hour seeing if we can make the animator work with a custom behavior.
No, it's horrible. It's an awful interface.
Why?
I mean, much worse than using Chase.
Why? You can zoom, you can see it all on there.
You can't see the dialogue. That's the main thing.
You can when you click onto the nodes, you'll be able to see the
Yeah,
dialogue.
but in JSON you can see the dialogue. And
Yeah.
you can zoom.
Yeah, but you can see a summary of what the thing is. You just can record
What
introduction.
you can see clearly here is the link between things.
Yeah. What's the most important bit? What's the hardest thing to do when you're trying to design the dialogue together? What are you really hankering for? Is it like a sequence of events? Is it the actual detail of what's said?
The main thing is not having to double enter. That was taking it from a flowcharting tool into Unity is a big pain in the balls. But the other thing would be just what leads to what. If I've got, here's the 7 pieces of conversation and I have to remember or have some other mechanism for knowing that 3 leads to 4 and 2 leads to 5, that's a big pain in the nuts.
If it was literally written, I mean, I don't think we've looked at what the JSON.
No, happy to look at it.
Like.
Happy to look at the JSON.
But from the way I envisage it, is you would have literally your response, and then where that's going to lead to. That's going to lead to like 5 or B or something. So
It's just
saying yes leads to B, saying no leads to C.
And write up some JSON. I think that Rick's going to say it doesn't feel very ergonomic. We could try.
No chance, have you?
No, not really. But I have written plenty of JSON. I know what it looks like.
The challenge is when we have 1,000 bits of dialogue or more, like it's not unusual to have tens of thousands of bits of dialogue.
The problem is there's no information height.
We don't get crazy overwhelmed with the number of files, and we don't get super overwhelmed with trying to figure out where we are. The other thing that I would wish for would be a spell check within the tool.
We can also, if we use the animator, we can also do all the timings of it. How long's the delay before the next character says something? And it's all in there.
Yeah, well, I think we should build our own then at that point.
Oh, and why bother? We've got the animator. It's just a way of moving numbers around, moving states around.
Yes.
DST.
Destination.
What would be your reservation to using a free Unity tool?
Me? None.
Either of you.
Well, you then got to teach the tool. Teaching
Well,
them.
if it's very simple, then it's one video to teach the tool.
If there is a free Unity tool we can use, yeah.
It's easier than teaching them how to make a tool.
There's no way that this flat structure is. Rick's not going to turn this into a tree diagram in his head. Nobody's sensibly going to be able to see this as a tree diagram in their head. That's what I'm concerned about. What are you thinking, Rick, about doing it this way?
The thing that I showed you.
No. What? Oh, sorry, we're not showing the screen. Just Sam's writing some JSON as the idea of you write it like this. So the NPCs say hello. The player's got the choice of saying boo or hi, and then you have to tag the responses with IDs.
Okay, so it's a text editor system as opposed to a visual drag and drop system.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is good until I need to move things.
Yeah, when you want to restructure this now.
How would you move? What do you mean by move it?
Well, I would say it would be Bob would say go to the bridge. The player would say, screw you or okay, and then I would say, oh, oops. Instead of Bob then saying, here's the direction, I want Bob to say, did you go and get that knife from the lady? And then for the player to say, yes, I did. So it's inserting lines.
Inserting more lines into there.
Inserting lines, removing lines, changing things, and saying, instead of having two options, I want to have one. Instead of this going over to there, it's like reconnecting things. So,
this is why I wanted to show Rick this, because he's told me something much more useful here about what he needs from the tool.
I kind of knew that was going to come out like that.
No, we didn't know what we were going to say. I mean, you haven't articulated that.
No, I haven't. I just felt the feeling was it's not going to work. Rick, if we were to use the animator, what do you feel about that? Is this a crazy idea? If we had the intro, let's use Sam's the same example. So the NPC saying hello. So let's just have this as hello. So I could tag this as him saying hello.
Tag it as him saying hello?
There'd be a summary of each conversation node, and then there'd be the actual text, which would be in a behavior script here of some sort.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know exactly what it'd be. Somewhere in here. I don't know if you can even do it. We'd have to see if we can do it. If you could do it, that for each one you have a summary, and then he comes along and says, "What do you?"
You see, the thing is the
boo hi.
The lines are the NPC, and this so the states of the NPC. The lines are the player's choices.
What I'm suggesting is that this becomes a boo state, i.e. the player has said boo.
No, that would be whatever the NPC says in response to the line would say boo.
But it doesn't have to be. We can do what we like with it. Probably,
no,
depending on
it's not because trained anymore. Because then you might have multiple options coming off the NPC. What does that mean?
Well, you have some guidelines as to what's allowed and what's not, and a bit of code that checks it. But you could then go, his choice is hello to boo or hello to hi. You can make a transition from there to there, and you can make a transition from there to there. And then the actual details of what boo and hi, if it's longer than boo or hi, it's in there. And then, Rick, you're saying that there would generally be that the NPC would say something different depending on what we said. So then the transitions are those. And then, this would be like, I'm scared. And this would be good day or whatever. And then it would you'd end up, regardless, you're saying, for the moment, you'd end up with, if the transitions are allowed, one option. And then the actual details of that conversation would be, if possible, I don't even know if it's possible, but it strikes me that tool's kind of there. What do you think of, what do you think, Rick?
Well, I mean, what you've shown me just now is a flow chart with lines connecting the states. So that inherently is the same thing that I would want, a drag and drop visual way of doing it. Would it be nice to use in the animation system? I'm assuming not, because I've never heard anyone use it. It would be a pretty common thing to do if it was easy to use, but I don't like the idea of having to create an individual, whatever it was, a script. It looked like you were doing I just want to type straight into that box. Ideally, I mean, this is the ideal situation. And I kind of don't want to
added a script. If it can work like this, once you've added a script to one of these, you just copy that. You just go copy paste, boom, boom, and it becomes your template for all the different bits of conversation. So that could be quick.
You copy paste the script, but
no, you'd make an animation node that's set up to do this, and then you copy paste it. So you'd have one that has some sort of script. It may or may not work.
Where are you putting your content of the against this script? You'd need a different script per node.
No, because it would be data on the script, if it's even possible. But even if it's not, it doesn't matter, because I'm still trying to understand what sort of interface you want. So if we find a free tool or we make a tool, however we do it, forget whether it's the animator. I'm just using this as a quick sketching tool to say, you want a bit of have a summary of the conversation on the nodes is okay rather than the full conversation? Is that too much work to summarize the conversation like that with good day when he actually says a whole sentence, or is that okay?
I'd rather see the conversation and not have a heading for it.
The whole thing?
Yeah. We also need to take into consideration that if the player has a dialogue option they can click, then how would that work? So at the start, the NPC says hello, whatever.
There's also timing to consider, whether the delays, whether it says something and then there's a delay and then.
Do we want that?
Don't know.
I think if we're going with simple path for now, we can just, once the player clicks a button, it goes to the next thing.
Okay.
We can, which is where we present the text as the player goes, what, like to do some funny noises.
JSON would be a great underlying representation. It's nice and transferable. We're teaching it in Godot. It'd be great if that's a really good choice as an underlying representation for the dialogue. It's easy to internationalize.
Not necessarily. It's probably a bad choice for that, I think, in terms of you just want a serializing thing.
I mean, you've got serializable objects, but they're hard to internationalize then because the text is obfuscated amongst all sorts of UUIDs and which. You what?
You'd put your own editor. So it doesn't. For the students to make an editor and know how to make a custom editor for interesting stuff like node-based stuff, which is quite common.
Yeah, it's a load of extra teaching we have to do. It's definitely worth a try.
Seems like it is whatever way we go. This, interfacing with this crap, is going to be really hard.
There'll be a little bit of minging stuff that you're repurposing.
Yeah, whereas if you can make it from scratch.
If we were an indie team, like the realistic thing,
we're doing it as an indie team. Yeah, what's the
if we're an indie team, we would just go use Fungus. It's free, and we would just plug it in. It's not going to be.
Is it free?
Yeah, it's free.
Oh well, we debate.
So that I always have a concern using free things and having it embedded into the course.
Teach, you have to get permission from the guy, etc.
Yeah, so if you guys look at it and you're like, yeah, you know what, let's give it. Well, it's easy to download it and see how the integration is. But I assume if it's integrated with Unity already, then we type our stuff in and it just works.
But if that goes away, that tool doesn't become it's not available in the future. We've got a problem. So we need to be able to have the rights to actually supply the tool.
Why not just write our own?
We can,
and then they can just download our editor, and then
because it's time.
A lot to do it.
I don't think making it's going to be hard.
No,
I think there's a lot of editors that we're going to need in this game. There's going to be inventory systems. There's stuff. So it's just a matter
with serialized objects. I would have thought like inventory is kind of like multiple objects of a certain type that have certain fields, whereas dialogue does have a fair amount of structure and internode structure, which is pretty tough. Right. Feels like we could make an editor really easily.
So, I mean, if something's free, then the conversation with the people who have created it is, why is it free? What do you want in return? Can we use it?
So my concern here is that taking off-the-shelf tools can actually be a lot harder to integrate than just making it yourself. When the thing that you're making is so easy, it's much easier to make it yourself, and it will be exactly what you need.
Yeah. So would we teach students how to make it, or would we make it?
We make it ourselves. But it's so simple, and they've got the source code that they can go and see.
That's your Twitch stream right there, isn't it?
It sort of is, but I still think this animator will do it. Look, it's got it here. I mean, there's my dialogue. I go to there, say hi, there's the details of what you say. I mean, yeah, you've got to do it's a bit weird, you're repurposing the tool, but isn't it good to teach them to use what they've got? This is totally flexible.
I think you're going to write as much code trying to pick apart this animator and synchronize the state between the animator and your actual internal state representation.
Are you? It's just, but you've got animation triggers for that. That's what it's designed. You'll even be able to see where you are in the dialogue. You just better put this down the bottom here while you're playing the game and see where you are in the dialogue. What's that?
You don't need to do that.
Yeah, but all that comes for free. I think it's worth trying anyway.
You're saying you're actually going to run the animator.
Yeah, I'm going to run
an animator somewhere in the world that's running. And
that's
horrible.
Well, why?
Why don't you give that a shot, Ben? And
it can be on the NPC.
Yeah, you could give it a go, Ben.
Let's give it a go. I mean, it may not hang together. That's the point.
That should be the topic of your upcoming Twitch RPG stream. Is let's see if we can make the animator.
Yeah, exactly. Totally open-ended. Yeah. Because I would ask that question. I haven't had a good answer as to why you wouldn't do it. I mean, it's got. Let's find out. Maybe it doesn't work. Maybe it does work.
Well, let's see if anyone else has done it before as well.
Yeah, I don't care if anybody else has done it. People often just don't think of things.
No. I'm saying if someone's done it, then we can use it as a positive reinforcement.
It'd be great if they have. Yeah, exactly.
It's viable.
It's a bit. I know it's weird.
It's viable, but it's weird and maybe not as flexible. That's my point. That if we take my approach, then it's probably just as many lines of code, and you've got full flexibility to do it exactly how Rick wants it.
Yeah, but we've already listened to how he wants it.
Neater.
I've already talked to him about how he wants it. There you go. This is somebody. Is it doing it? No, that's an editor. An editor similar to the animator.
You create one.
Yeah. Well, I'll try it. I'll try it as a Twitch stream.
The point is that all these boxes and UI dialogues that they've built the editor with are part of the Unity API. So you can just you can create this, you can create the boxes, you can create the links, all in code.
Yeah. You can, but that you're talking again. You've got your intermediate stroke advanced.
Then you've got control. Then you've got control of the. Yeah, but we're talking about providing them this as an open source thing that they can just take and use or pick apart and have a look at the source code if they want to, and we'll just be.
But the mindset, I like. The scrappy mindset is we've got this tool. Can we use it? So. Anyway, I should try it because it'll either succeed or fail in like a 1 hour Twitch stream. I'll either not get anywhere or it'll work and have its limitations and we'll know what we need from the next tool.
Yeah.
Or if we're going to rebuild it.
A fair test would then be to do the other one as well.
Which other one's that?
To try and build it yourself from the editor point of view. Just build your own editor.
Well, we can do a Twitch battle if you like. We can both try and get to a simple end result and then you do one, I do the other. And we can see what it's not really a fair battle because you're going to do stuff that it's going to be hard for us to teach.
Yeah, but we've just said that we wouldn't teach it necessarily.
But just provide it as an asset, Then you might as well make an asset pack and sell it on the asset store and make, it's going to be good enough to stand up to the scale of lots of students. It's going to have lots of edge case issues that we've simply got to maintain this tool that question a bit.
Yeah, potentially.
It's a sticking point, isn't it? Okay, look, I'll try that, Rick, and then I'll have learned something from it at the end of it, and see if we can do. We came up with this idea. Can we use that to store the dialogue? Because that's the hardest bit, right?
I just feel like going and doing it in half an hour.
Okay, we'll do it, and I'll have a play with this, and we'll reconvene. I mean, no, I don't want to keep you off the VR stuff, really, because it's better to get you through the VR so that you can focus on this 100%.
That's the point. But I do feel like it wouldn't be hard to do.
Well, that's part of our daily code reviews. Is tomorrow when we talk about it, I can see what I've come up with, and we can talk about what the alternative is.
Yeah. I just don't think you're giving the alternative a chance.
So, sounds like we've reached a natural conclusion. I might wrap up. You're using a massively old build there, Ben. That bridge is like, I've been looking at it, wondering what's going on. So make sure you sync to the latest and greatest.
Yeah, I'm not sure why that's so old. We will have a look. I'll go pull the repo, make sure that, let me just look at it on GitHub. That's a way of kind of somewhat reliable way of making sure that we're on the same page. So the latest stuff should be on the master branch, right?
Yep.
So that'd be that. Congratulations, presumably.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're pretty sure that if I pull that it will be what I'm after.
That's definitely the last commit in the project.
Okay, well, I'll go pull that and have a look and see what it looks like. Okay, no worries, mate.
Oh, awesome. I'll just stick around. If you can do that now, I'll just stick around and check that it looks like what I'm expecting it to look like.
Rename these guys. I'm just going to get this pulled down because it's quite big. Close Unity. Remember, we only write about maximum 10 lines of code in a lecture, so if it's going to be hundreds of lines of code to put this together, then that's dozens of lectures.
We said it wouldn't be. Seem to be writing on the order of 30 in the articles.
What, per commit?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's fast, you know, that's intermediate. So I guess the RPG. I wonder what we've been writing in the RPG. Let's have a look at that metric.
This is exactly what this guy's building in this blog post.
Yeah. It's ugly though, but yeah, it's fine.
Is it?
Well, it is a bit not polished like the animator is. It's a nice place.
Well, yeah, but the animator's going to look ugly as fuck when you put dialogue in it.
Is it?
It's not going to, that's much better. Show Rick that compared to what you were doing in the animator.
I think that's Barkley. You think that's all right to look at?
Functional.
Yeah.
Usable.
Why? I don't get it.
Because you've got the text right there. You can see it.
Yeah, but
You can add extra properties if you need it.
For me, having the text, having a summary of the text is is information hiding. You're saying you don't want to write a summary of the text, Rick, on a node, ideally?
Ideally.
Because I would like to have the summary person, and not that I've written many dialogue trees, but I'd like to have the summary so that I can zoom out a bit and think about what the whole conversation is without looking at all the details. If you see what I mean.
Yeah, I see what you mean. I had headings when I wrote my Text 101 story, and
Did have
afterwards I wasn't looking at the headings at all. No, when I mapped it out in my tool,
Your natural inclination was to start with headings, you're saying?
just because the template that I was using had a heading slot in it.
Yeah.
But
Either way, if it was there, you would write a word or two and not complain, or it would be a real pain.
I'd complain, but if it has to be done, it has to be done.
Yeah, no, but it's whether it's actually value or
A lot
not.
of the dialogue is, it's a couple of words or it's a sentence. So to summarize a sentence, someone saying, "Did you get the sword?" and you saying, "Yeah, I got the sword," and then saying, "Well, thanks for that." It's like giving headings to those three things is a bit redundant.
Yeah.
And the idea is that you shouldn't have big chunks of text, so the dialogue will be like that. The idea is to have single sentence dialogue, maybe 2 sentences, to snap through it pretty fast.
So this is what Ben was saying, absolutely, and just wanted to show Rick.
Yeah, it's
whether
interested in your opinion.
Whether he thinks it would be not very useful. That's the kind of thing I'm talking about creating. Obviously, you can basically change anything about the functionality of this. It's just how it would look.
Right. Yeah, I mean that looks good.
I'm going to scrap.
I think the thing is, the thing that takes a lot of time is when you have to enter or exit a node. That's what takes a lot of time. So if I've got a box and I just type straight into the box, I click on the next box, I type straight in, next box, I click in. I'm like, oh, actually I want this one, drag it over there, and they're in order. That's quicker than saying, here's a box. I need to then click and then go into the box, do some stuff, and then click to come out of the box.
Mm-hmm.
And if I want to be able to process what's going on, then I need to go in, look, come out, look, go in, look, come out, look. That takes a lot longer than just being able to read it by scrolling to the right level and saying.
Yeah, I was going to say about scrolling. If you want to do information hiding, you can always only show the first, 60 characters of a piece of dialogue or whatever
until you click on it.
And then you've got in a way the best of, but the summary is the start of it. Then you've got the best of both worlds.
I want to be able to see the whole dialogue without having to expand or scroll or zoom or anything.
Information hiding in a dialogue. If there's too much information, then
That'd be too much
We
time.
shouldn't have in a single dialogue node. We shouldn't have we need to limit it because we're going to have a UI that's that amount of stuff.
and
So
plus
it'll
nobody
be
wants to read like those kind
They
of
don't wanna
long
read, yeah.
scrolling like explanation of
No.
my backstory. And
No, I don't want that in the game personally. It's just too.
if you need a character to say a few things, then you give them sentence number 1 and 2, and then you have a continue button, sentence 3 and 4, continue button 5 and 6, and then that's it. But you would never have it can't expand, or you don't want to scroll. It's like the old school RPGs where you read, click, boom, and you've got a lot of information, but you get through it as fast as you can read.
I think if you were doing this, even an indie team, you'd make your own editor. Just because
you'd use an off-the-shelf tool.
You would use an off-the-shelf tool, but then that would, you would start with the tool and then let that drive your requirements. Yeah. Because you don't go in with requirements and pick up a tool and be like, oh, actually I can't do any of the stuff that I want to do. Especially when it's not. It's like there's 100 lines of code or so in this. It's not that hard.
Yeah.
I mean, the level of abstraction we're talking about is kind of quite straightforward.
Yeah.
Not for teaching it to students necessarily.
I don't think it's great to teach because it's a whole new topic, it's a whole new mindset. If it's anything like making the custom editors, it
will be a lot like making custom editors.
It's quite a different mindset in terms of how it all goes together. Just check this is the right build state, Rick, and then we're good.
I'm sure you can try the animator thing though.
But I'm going to make sure the scope. If Rick doesn't want to click in, it's no good because he's going to have to click in.
Load up Village 2.
Well, we were looking at. That's why. This is why we don't copy things. On that other thing I was showing you, I was on Rick's Village rather than Village 2. That was probably the only difference.
Yep.
So in the same state, but why is Village 2 so similar to Rick's Village? One of the first things we need to do is delete one of those, which.
Yeah,
there's no value in having those two things.
Because I was testing it in different ways. I think I was trying out different stuff.
Okay, well then what I have was fine.
That's a design thing. Don't go deleting scenes just because you don't like the idea of having two similar scenes.
But it leads to those types of mistakes. We just wasted 5 minutes reloading it when it was fine. It was already in Village 2. If I see Rick's Village and tokenize it as Rick's Village, that to me that should be the only place that exists. The only thing that's like Rick's Village should be Rick's Village, right? Why is there another copy of it?
Why isn't it given a more meaningful name? Why isn't there a separate folder for test levels and the actual kind of final product levels like the Village? Why isn't there a Village scene and then some tests, like a sandbox folder with Rick's Village?
Well, why branch it in Unity at all? Why not use version control to branch it? I mean, if Village 2 is a fork of Rick's Village, which it effectively is, why do we need a separate? So we just got to be aware of those things because I didn't know which one. I mean, I said on the live stream the other day, I don't know what this Village 2 is all about because it looks like Rick's Village at that point. What was the intention, Rick, of creating a fork of Rick's Village? Why did we go in different?
One of them, I think it was an asset conversation. One of them had the new assets from the asset pack that have all of the strings attached with it. The other one had only the Mikey assets, so it didn't have any of the strings attached with it.
Okay.
So in this Village too, there's a whole bunch of things that the students don't have. If I remember correctly, I need to go look into it again.
Yeah,
we don't have the rights to
might be worth calling it that though, even if it's really long form, like Village with no paid assets or something like that. And it's still a fork because if you change your village, what are you going to do? You're going to sync the changes across to this, or you're not going to sync them across it. You know what I mean? It makes it a bit tricky to conceptualize it. So that's your right bridge, is it?
Yeah, this is the right level.
That's cool. It looks really nice. All right, need to get into it then. So one of the first things is going to be dialogue editing. Take a look at that blog. See if we do something like that.
Yeah.
And Rick, what's the story on the editor, on the free editor? We could do it, but it's risky.
On the what?
On the free Unity editor. If we're going to provide a free editor, I'd like to be able to have the rights to download that and give it to the students in future, even if that person, I don't want the person to have the ability to nerf our course.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's been my reluctance all along. So I wanted you guys to, well, the next steps would be have a look at it, see if you think it is appropriate for what we want to do and the integration's appropriate. And if you look at it and you're like, yeah, this is pretty cool, this would save us time, then I'll start that dialogue with the asset pack guy, with the tool provider, and just lay down what.
The very next thing we're doing, it's going to block us, isn't it? Unless we do something else. What was the other second vote for what we do next? One was questing, and the other was what? Questing and dialogue. Which you can remember what the poll was?
Inventory.
Oh, was it inventory?
Well,
so that.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I mean these are macro topics. I wouldn't go deviating. Like don't go change away from questing just for this particular point. This is
that's going to be blocked on waiting for you to talk to the guy. If that's the route we go, we could just go over to inventory, as it was closely voted as being the other thing that people wanted to see next.
Well, it wasn't. That was a vote of like 4 people against 3 people, which is not indicative of anything.
No, not really. Well, was that what it was? I can't remember what that.
Well, it was on the Twitch stream, and those polls aren't indicative of anything. I think it's, yeah. I mean, have a look at that tool first. If you're like, yeah, we should just use this because it's pretty rad. I think from a designer point of view, it's going to give me everything and more. Is it going to be a little bit too complex? I don't think so. I think we'll be able to teach it quickly. The question will be, can we get the rights to it? Can we put it in our repo is the main thing.
Called Fungus.
Mm-hmm.
If you edit extensions, that thing there. Got it. Okay. So I'll get that in. So there you go. There's a perfect example, Rick. I've just clicked on it from the asset store and I get the link no longer valid. That's exactly why I don't want to include in the course Fungus just without us being able to provide it. Precisely that happened. I'm in the asset store inside Unity, logged in. I'm not logged in, so I better log in and make sure it's not just me not being logged in. Okay, it could be some wider issue. But
it's not even letting you log in, is it?
But I click that, or I go on their website, and it does the same thing. So it's either could be my login, but they're the sort of things that shows us another thing that can go wrong, which is my Unity login.
Yeah, I know. I've always been very hesitant to be reliant on asset packs. It's always been, here's what I'm going to use, but you guys should go find your own stuff. But you can use. It's always been, what can we put in our public repo without getting sued? Has been the conversation.
Yeah. All right, it was 50-50, but. No, it was 13 votes for dialogue and progression or character inventory.
You see that it's 13.
Because 3 people must have voted with 100. Because you can only vote with 100 or 1,000. So then we can get to 310 as if 10 people have voted with 1 bit and 3 people have voted with 100.
I think if you genuinely want to get good information on polls, you have to do it on Facebook.
Yeah, it says literally 50-50.
Yeah.
But it's 13 people. It's not, and it's the 13 people who are on Twitch.
No, so these are just the 2 main buckets, right? Once we've got inventory and questing, that's pretty much it done, right?
Pretty much the RPG done.
Yeah.
No, but that's because there's a lot of things that fall within those umbrellas or kind of touch various aspects of it. I think we need to do.
It's going to be loads of UI.
Yeah, lots of UI, but saving, level loading, we sort of captured all those areas in each, but like if you think about character stats and progression, there's just a massive amount of stuff for us to do in there.
Saving.
Just the system of how to calculate the damage that you do to an enemy once we factor in the damage of a weapon, plus any spells that you've cast to buff yourself, plus the strength modifier, plus the enemy's armor, plus any enemy. Like if we go that amount of scope, then there's a lot of stuff to do in there. We can simplify it and cut it down.
Thanks very much. We'll see you soon. Functionality progress on it. Happy to let go of that animator idea already, because it's not what you've told me now that's new, is that you want to be able to see it on the You want to be able to see the dialogue on the screen without clicking through. So that means, I know.
Ideally, yeah. I mean, you.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah. You
How
could
long?
compromise, I guess that's the thing.
What's your longest piece of dialogue? Because you could use the state name. What's your longest in a single state? Is it like 60 characters or?
I don't know, but if you look at the fungus thing, there was something that popped up on there that seemed pretty indicative of what I think we would do, which is potentially having a character face or even just it's the JRPG approach, the Final Fantasy approach, where you have probably 20% of the screen, so whatever you can fit in there, and that's going to depend upon how big your text is. So
yes, that's quite a bit.
2 sentences at the absolute most, I think, on one thing. I don't know how many characters that is.
That's not going to work so well here.
Also, have a look at Diablo. If in doubt, our design motto all along has been, if in doubt, do what Diablo does. So if you go to Diablo dialogue, you can see that they have more of a pop-up.
It is Diablo meets Monty Python. That's minging now. Properly talking about minging. Diablo, I'm going to say game.
So
no, dialogue, is it D-I-L-O-G? Is that the UK spelling, and then UE is the American or something? I'm seeing both. When do you put a UE on the end of dialogue?
I put a UE on the end, so.
Well, dialogue's always with UE.
Can you see my screen share at the moment?
Yes.
So it could be as small as this, that we do the pop-up window.
Then we're going to.
And then it's
we really want the faces, because then you've got to do art, the 2D art system with
I do, but we're not going to.
Yeah.
We just don't. That's the resources we don't have. So it's just going to be person's name, and then blah 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 blah, and some sort of option, and potentially some sort of branching dialogue at that point.
And get another cup of tea or a cup of coffee, I think. Get my hunger at bay.
Okay. Catch you guys later.
Thanks for the discussion. I'm much clearer about what you need there now, and we'll try and do it as simply as possible, but I will. Just waiting for Rick to confirm whether he wants me to patch him.
To do the quest and not get bogged down in the dialogue, like the backwards and forwards of the dialogue at the moment. Just have the dialogue.
Jason, there's a good idea to start with.
So just start however. Don't let the complexity of dialogue shouldn't block getting a quest done.
Okay, so just as I sign off, the sun's completely set here. Rick is saying that he's happy to sign on. So I'm just going to crank this up and make sure that everybody is happy to go. I'm just going to make up a meeting ID. Does this work? Can I just do that in Zoom? Let's try that. Make that up. No, okay, so you can't do that. Let's do this. Okay, cool. Let's get you a URL, Rick. You can see the meeting ID there, Rick, for your pleasure. I think I will not record. We could record. So there's the meeting ID, Rick. You're welcome to join it. Then you can take it from there. I'll make sure that the sound is being output to the right place. That should do it. And so once Rick's on, we'll know that it's all working. And
go. You're muted on Zoom, Ben. Okay, it looks like we're live. I see myself on Twitch. Hello, everyone. How you doing? I can also hear myself on Twitch, but mute me. So it's 8:30ish. It is 8:30ish there. And normally I'd be up and bright and early and bouncy and running around. But I think I'm getting a little bit of a cold, a little bit of that throat thing going on at the moment. So not quite as full of beans as usual. Maybe it's because I was up till the wee hours making videos with Ben and Sam. Pardon me. What time is it for you guys? What time is it for everyone who's watching at the moment? We've got 25 people live. 5:30 p.m. Oh, somewhere in the middle of Europe, I'm guessing. You're buffering badly. Uh-oh, stream dead. Oh, maybe Ben was the goal here for. Maybe Ben wasn't intending to talk to you guys. Maybe that's why it's just me, and maybe that's why Ben's muted. Let me just read what Ben said here. Let me see what Ben said. Can anyone recap what Ben said? Was it, "Hey Rick, let's you and I have a conversation," or was it, "Hey Rick, do you want to get your big," or shall I end the stream? Oh, I see. So this allows me to jump on. I'm seeing it's just here so I can speak to everyone. I'm hands off now. Okay, I am. Is that the same with people watching, or is that just because in Australia there's some sort of bandwidth issue? And am I coming through clean, or am I all not so good here? Well, he went to have a life. Yeah, I don't think Ben went to have a life. I think he went to sleep. Maybe that's when his day begins. Maybe he's a vampire. Have you guys actually ever seen Ben in the sun? I haven't. I think maybe he's a vampire. Yeah. So I'm really interested. I'm not sure if you guys watch conversation about what video is a bit fuzzy. Really valuable conversation for us to have. So we thought, well, let's throw it online and see if anyone's interested in seeing that. As opposed to when we do a specific Twitch stream, which I've felt when we've been doing them, there's a lot of sidetrack, a lot of getting distracted because it's a dialogue. So what's a good analogy comparison is the Twitch stream is more like hanging out in a club or in a lounge where it's an ongoing dialogue.